Do we have approval of the agenda?
I'll move to approve.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, none opposed. Do we have approval of the minutes of the regular meeting August 16th and the special meeting September 7th?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, none opposed. We have our student representative, Jennifer Patino, ASB leadership member, so we're very excited to welcome you.
Thank you for having me. Okay, so Nordhoff news. Homecoming week is in full swing. This year's theme is Welcome to Paradise. We have many themed dress-up days with a rally, a luau lunch, halftime show, and a dance planned for Friday and Saturday. Nordhoff teachers are continuing to use Parent Edge. Teachers are able to send all homework assignments on a daily basis through a single text to parents. We hope parents will feel more connected to Nordhoff and will be able to talk with their students about what they are doing with their classes. Mitzelha news. There will be a school-wide assembly on a field in regards to International Peace Day. All students will form a peace sign and a drone will take an aerial picture of it. Miramani news. Intervention in English language development classes and lunch brunch, aka study hall, have started. Students in grade 1 through 3 not completing their classes, which means like classwork or home reading assignments, will have the opportunity to spend a portion of their lunch and recess in a classroom completing their assignment during lunch brunch. Chaparral. Chaparral will be adding a hospitality and tourism management ROP class this year. The teacher is Nick Moeller, lives in Ojai and had the Antonio's restaurant, what is now Agave Maria's. Toba Toba news. During the week of September 19th through the 23rd, Toba Toba is holding a book fair with the family donut morning on Wednesday the 21st. September 22nd is back to school night, and on October 5th, Toba will host a jogathon. San Antonio /Summit. San Antonio and Summit schools held a joint fundraiser on September 17th at the Lindsay Ranch in Upper Ojai. There was plenty of food, great music, and a wonderful variety of auction items. Everyone who attended enjoyed the beautiful surroundings and the opportunity to raise funds for the two schools. Lastly, Miners Oaks news. A few Miners Oaks students spoke at the Lions Club meeting last week on behalf of Miners Oaks School. They asked for a donation to help cover some of the cost for a mural. The mural would take up the entire wall at the school entrance and includes many things commonly found at or around our campus. There will be a mountain lion, an owl, the 3 stages of butterflies' life cycle, a hawk, and many other things the students have seen on the outings to the meadow.
Thank you, Jennifer. We know you have homework and many other things to do at school, so we appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
And that was a great report. All right, we're going to move on to public comments. And at this time, we are asking for comments that have to do with item 6.1. This is the possibility of reconfiguring our elementary schools. Not 6. Oh, I'm sorry. We have a special event. Nope. Sorry. Yes, we're going to introduce Javier Ramirez. He is our principal of Mitzelha Junior High. He's back there in the back. And we have a special activity.
So this evening we have 2 dances for you guys, and guys had it this evening? Hope you guys enjoyed it. We're in Ojai. Everyone is welcome. As you can see, quite a bit of exercise. This is only a portion of what we do when we practice. So everyone is welcome. We practice like in the Matilda auditorium. Not auditorium, the gym, sorry. Gym. And we go Fridays at 7. Everyone is welcome. You don't have to be so past 6%. Okay? Everyone is welcome. Please join us Friday, 7 o'clock. We go to the gym. If you want to show up and do some exercise, we'd love to have you. Okay? Thank you guys.
That was fabulous. Thank you so much, Javier, and the beautiful dancers. Wow. I hope you guys, it makes me want to go do this. It's really great. Ooh, okay. Now, moving on. We're going to have a discussion about our school district and what, what we might or might not do with schools, and how important it is for us to be thoughtful.
I'm sorry, Linda, for the agenda, we were going to ask for any public comments not about item 6.1. So if you wanted to make a comment about something else and head out this evening, you would go before the big group that wants to speak. So if you have something, a public comment, not on item 6.1, that would be first.
Okay. Yes, we have Angie is actually first. Angie Danasis. Yes.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm here as an, huh? Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Pull it a little closer to you.
How about that? Okay. Now I'm going to be really nervous. I am here as the OFT president, and I am here to speak because negotiations are about to resume between the district and the Ojai Federation of Teachers. And I am here to ask the district and the school board to walk their talk when it comes to our negotiations. Each of you has said that you value teachers and that you want each of us to be compensated justly. And the recent, I don't know how to say this, so maybe Andy, you can help me. The recent unaudited actuals came back, and there was a fund balance, is that the way you say it? Fund balance of close to $400,000. And that, my understanding is that balance is not budgeted, it's extra. So when I see that, and the rest of the Ojai Federation of Teachers see that, we want that money to be put towards compensation for teachers, because we've been waiting a very long time to be compensated. And each of you has said you want us to be compensated, so we're asking for that money to go towards us. And right now I know that the current practice, I'm not gonna look at my notes, I do terrible when I do that. The current practice of Ojai is that you budget everything, and then you say, do we have enough money for teachers? And our belief is that if you really want to make us a priority, that instead of doing that, you will say, we make you a priority, we have a line item for you in the budget, and we're going to give you this much money, and we're going to give you a raise of 4% or 5%. And then instead of saying next year, well, we don't have enough money for teachers, instead you're going to figure out where to get that money for all the other things, because the teachers should come first. And I was trying to describe that to my husband. I was just saying, you know, here's what I think. When you want your child to go to college, you say, I'm going to budget, I'm going to make sure my child goes to college, and I'm going to cut back wherever I have to for them to go to college. If all of a sudden your car breaks down and you need a new car, you buy the new car, and then you say, where else can I make it work for me in my budget? So what we're asking for you to do is put that $400,000 towards teachers and make sure that you figure it out somewhere else on the back of something else in the budget, not the teachers. Thanks.
Thank you, Angie. Our next speaker is Steve Weed. Steve, we're ready for you. Yes.
My topic is kind of related to school closure.
Okay.
Speak now, I suppose.
Well, if you want to wait, that's fine. Okay. How about Sandra Hansen?
So I'm Sandra Hansen, teacher at Miners Oaks Elementary, and I'll be talking about...
Can't hear you.
Oh, that's right. Let me make sure everyone can hear me. I'm Sandra Hansen, teacher. Right now I'm at Miners Oaks Elementary, and I'd like to address 3 different items for the board. I'd like to talk about Summit School, Miners Oaks School, and finally some salary. Just some comments that I felt after the last board meeting that I was at. And I'm just going to read my thoughts. 44 years ago, Bill Purdom hired Ronnie Rodriguez at Summit and told her it would be a one-year assignment, since Summit would be closing the following year. That was 44 years ago. I worked at Summit for many years, 20 years ago, and regularly there was talk of closing it. The families and PTO would come together and attend meetings and go through the terror of tragedy that the community is once again facing right now. For outsiders, it's just talk. For the people it will affect, it's life-changing. Educating your children is always a priority. The same terror loomed over Miners Oaks, where I am now, for 6 months, and the repercussions from that, for some, are irreparable. I know of 6 students who chose not to stay at Miners Oaks or in the Ojai Unified School District, partially because of the discussion. I've heard rumor of many kindergarten parents who have chosen to enroll their children elsewhere because of the possible school closure in the future. This discussion, though only words, has long-term ramifications. Each elementary school delivers enriching programs and has a unique character that appeals to different kinds of families. Last week, as I sat and listened to a few board members admonish the schools not to sit back on their laurels, but to keep the new fires the board has set into action fueled, I felt offended and sad that members of the board seem to feel that what is happening at my school, Miners Oaks, is a direct result of a kick in the seat. The fact is, these programs have been ongoing and are not new. You just didn't recognize them. We're too busy teaching. The Green Ribbon School recognition, recycling, Nordhoff Buddies, Garden to Lunch, Land Conservancy, meadow restoration projects, and our specialized language development programs, they're not new. Our brochure is new, and the idea of advertising the best little environmental school in town, that's new. Thanks to a very vibrant PTO, but school is the same happy place it's always been. So I know you weigh your decisions carefully and thoughtfully. I hope your decisions are based on a future vision and a financial responsibility to help get our teachers off the bottom of the teaching salary scale in the Tri-Counties as a priority. We supported the district for years by taking furlough days and a stagnant salary to keep the district solvent. It seems like a bit of an embarrassment that you would allow this bottom of the barrel compensation to continue. Thank you.
I got a request to speak from Maria Montalvo. Did you want to speak about the schools, or is it some other item that is not pertaining to the school? It doesn't. You didn't write down what you wanted. I don't. Okay, we'll just. Okay, thank you. All right. Next person is Kim Eck, and I'm going to ask. We have a huge pile here of speakers, and we want to be able to give everybody equal time. So we're hoping that you'll stick to the 3-minute time limit. So please try to do that. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kim Eck. I have lived in Upper Ojai for 18 years. I could talk to you tonight about how valuable Summit School is to me as a community member, but I know there are many who could and will do that and have done that. My 3 children attended Summit School, so I could talk to you about what it has meant to me as a parent to have had the flexibility that Summit has provided for my youngest child, who just didn't always fit the mold of his age group, or about the leadership qualities that my shy middle child was able to learn in his small class of 4, or the innovative learning opportunities my gifted oldest child was able to receive at Summit. But instead, I'd like to talk to you as a Summit teacher. I'm now in my 2nd year teaching our youngest students from transitional kindergarten through the 2nd grade. I know it sounds like an impossible task, and I myself wondered how in the world I could do it before I started. How could I possibly provide a quality education to such a wide age range? I am here to tell you tonight that what a joy it has been to discover that having many ages in my class is not a disadvantage to them at all. The opposite is true. Being in a combo class is an opportunity for each child to start wherever they are in their educational program and progress as far as they can at their own pace. I can reach every child in a small group of their peers and encourage each one to strive for goals that they might see the older students achieving. Older students learn patience and tolerance for the younger students, and the younger ones can be proud of what they have learned and what they can contribute to the whole group. As my colleague Sherry Usher will speak of or has spoken of, the Common Core ideals of collaboration and cooperative group projects are easily implemented and very meaningful. These students really learn the skills necessary to work in a group as part of a community, which I feel are very important skills indeed. As a teacher, I truly feel that I am now doing some of the best teaching of my life, helping each student reach their potential. It is not an impossible task. Looking ahead, I see a bright future for Summit. We're planning a preschool to feed our school and raise enrollment. There are plans for developments near our community that could also increase our enrollment. And with the stable and committed staff that we have now, I feel we can not only continue to enrich our basic curriculum with STEM projects as we have been doing, but also develop and implement even more innovative learning programs that will draw more families to our school and to the district. A few years from now, I envision a small school with all of the opportunities I have spoken of and more. Keep Summit open and watch it grow.
Our next speaker is Michael Vale.
Good evening. Let's see if I can get this to work. Does it work? Can you hear me? My name is Michael Vale. I'm the newest member of the Summit staff, teaching staff. I provide credentialed instructional support to grades transitional kinder through 6th grade. Prior to taking on this position, I served as a school administrator in the Santa Barbara Unified School District for 20 years, both as an elementary principal and as the coordinator for English learner and parent involvement programs in Santa Barbara Unified. As the newest member of the teaching staff, I should keep my comments short, and I'll do so, okay? I want to speak on 2 topics very quickly. One is on the notion that it is impossible for teachers at Summit to provide quality education based on the multi-graded nature of each of their classrooms. One of the classrooms is transitional K through 2nd grade, the other is 3rd grade through 6th grade, as you know. I would remind all of us that children are not born into grades, that this is an organizational notion, probably borrowed by Horace Mann in the 19th century from the Prussians, to stick people in specific grades by their age as a more efficient, industrial-like way of educating our young here in the United States. Then in fact, from their earliest times, children demonstrate different levels of skills in their listening, speaking skills, and that these differences continue throughout the elementary and their secondary education, and they're probably present as in we adults as well. The job then of the teacher is to identify what the specific needs of each child are and to try to individualize instruction to meet that need. It can be done both teacher to student, but it can be done more effectively as the Common Core standards point out and the frameworks associated with the English language arts, math, and English language development through collaboration of students. In my 6 weeks at Summit School, I have seen individualized instruction, collaboration amongst students of all ages in both of our classrooms, and the level of both teaching and learning as high a quality as I've ever seen in 30 years as an educator. That's all in just 6 weeks. I am sure, I have no doubts that we have tremendous teachers throughout the Ojai Unified School District, but I know as a fact from observation that we have two of the best in Sherry Usher and Kim Eck. My beep says that I need to stop, so I will wind it up and say this. My other observation as a new member of the Summit community is that I've never seen a sense of community so strong, not only amongst parents, but students, teachers. I've never seen the type of support at any school that I've worked at, and I've worked hard to develop a sense of community at the schools that I've worked at. It's a gem that we should, instead of thinking about closing, we should be thinking about advertising as a model for all schools in our district. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Serena Jasso.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay. I'm Serena Hasso. I was born and raised in Ojai Valley. Went to school here. I have 3 beautiful children that are over there. One has promoted from Summit School, also went to Matilha, now goes to Nordhoff. She's a leader. I am also the Ojai Valley Grange overseer, which is second to the headmaster. I work with all the youth at Ventura County Fair. That being said, my boys, they're in 2nd grade and 5th grade. We live in Santa Paula now. We get up pretty early in the morning to get to Summit and then to get Kiana to Nordhoff. But if you guys close Summit School, there would be no way possible that I could get these children up at 4:30 in the morning. Absolutely. We would have to go to a different school. You guys, I would even have to take my daughter out of Nordhoff High School because there's just no way possible. I am married, but my husband works 6 days a week. He is often at Port Hueneme working. I am the only, or basically the sole transporter of my children, and there's just absolutely no way possible that we would be able to stay in Ojai Valley School District, and it's very, very unfortunate. Being a 4th generation of living here, growing up here, it would be impossible. I just encourage you guys to keep Summit open, realize what a gem you guys have in Upper Ojai, because we've tried the bigger schools. I've tried homeschooling, and it's just not the same as Summit. Everybody knows everybody. We're such a tight, closed community that it's just like family. When the kids go to school, I don't ever have to worry about them being uncomfortable at a school or bullied or anything, because Summit teaches them so many morals and values that you guys could never understand without going there. I encourage you guys to come and visit Summit for a week. Just see how the teachers teach. See how all the kids are so friendly and willing to teach the younger kids. It's amazing. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
I apologize for butchering your name, but the next person is Kiana Hasso.
Hi, my name is Kiana Hasso, and that was my mom, Serena Hasso, that was up here talking right now. I go to Nordhoff High School, and I'm a freshman, and I went to Summit School from 2nd grade all the way up to 6th grade and promoted from there. Went to Matilha and promoted to Nordhoff. And I've heard that some people have been saying that classes at Summit, since they have more than one grade, like inside each class, that some people have been saying, oh, well, those kids might not learn as much. I think that it's actually good to have like more classes and like more grades in each class, because it's actually a better learning opportunity for the lower graded kids. That's how you put it. And then for the upperclassmen, it's actually a good leadership role, because you're learning how to work with younger kids. It teaches responsibility. It teaches them they could reach their goals. I remember when I was in 3rd grade, we had 6th grade buddies. We would always partner up for stuff, and I would always look up to my buddy. Everyone that I know that goes to Matilha and Nordhoff who went to Summit, they don't have under a 3.0 grade point average. All the teachers that I've had at Summit are really, really good. And I'm actually a 4.0 grade average student. I have never had under a C in all of my classes, and I don't think that it's fair for some people to say, oh, well, we don't think that they're learning as much. I want you guys to come into the Summit School classrooms, like some other people were saying, observe, actually see how the teachers are teaching the students, how good everyone gets along there. I go there and I feel like I'm at home. That's like my second home. I come and I took the bus from Matilha up there. I would go and hang out with all the little kids. Might seem a little childish and stuff, but everyone seems like family there, and I don't think that you should tear our family apart.
Jacob Hasso.
Hi, I'm Jacob. I'm in Miss X class at Summit School. I love my school. Please don't close it. Thank you.
Isaiah Hasso.
Hello, my name is Isaiah Hassel. I'm in 5th grade. I'm in Mrs. Usher's class at Summit. I don't want to go. I don't want to go to school in Santa Paula. Please keep Summit open. I don't want my teacher to lose her job. Please keep Summit open. Thank you.
Barbara Weiser.
Hi, good evening. Both my kids started at Summit Preschool, and they went there for 2 years each, and they've been continued. Now they're in 5th grade and 3rd grade, so they've been there the whole time. And since they started at Summit, I've always been happy that I could leave them at school, drive away to work, and not worry about them, which is a huge thing for a mother. All the students there know each other, and the faculty and staff know each other. From the kids will yell out to their friends, "So-and-so, your mom's here," when they drive in. They know each other's cars. Summit has more parent involvement than any other school I know. Parents help out in classrooms. They help out at events and fundraisers. And when we have school potlucks, they bring their absolute best dishes, and it's the best food ever. The teachers at Summit School want and encourage parent involvement. They love having parents there. I've always been amazed at how many parents are around at events. Even people that live in the community that don't currently have students at Summit attend the school events. The school functions act as a community hub and bring the Upper Ojai community together. Currently, we have 2 amazing, energetic teachers who love the school and they want to stay there as long as they can. They have brought programs such as STEM program and a science fair, among other programs. My kids are learning and they're thriving at Summit School, not only in academic subjects, but also in social skills and community involvement and growth. Students at all levels learn to work together and learn to appreciate each other's differences and strengths. A few years ago, I asked my kids if they would like to try going to a bigger school in Ojai the following year. They both emphatically said no, and with appalled looks on their faces, asked me why I would think that they would want to leave Summit. So we stayed. At the end of last school year, my family and I were faced with having to move away and possibly, even move to a different state. And my kids had accepted it and they were okay with it. But the families at Summit and the parents there rallied together and to find ways for us to stay in the community, from trying to find jobs for us and to places to live. And what other community would have parents that would do that for their families? Thank you, guys. So we stayed. We did everything we could to stay here in Ojai because my kids wanted to stay at Summit. We could have left. We could have moved to Wisconsin, where I'm from, but my kids, they just really wanted to stay here. So we did everything we could to stay. If Summit closes, we live in Santa Paula now, so we would be leaving the district, and simply because it would be too far of a drive to go to the next closest Ojai school. So we want Summit to stay open because our kids loved it there, and it's the only school they've known. Thank you. Right on time.
Darren Weiser.
That was just my mom there. And my name is Darren Weiser, and I'm in 5th grade in Mrs. Usher's class. And I just don't understand why you would want to shut it down. It was the first school I ever went to, and it was the only one. And we all know each other there. We've been learning really cool stuff. And I love the school, and I would hate to have it shut down. Summit School is so amazing and awesome. Like, one day we went on this hike, and we went 3 miles up. It was so cool. And then this other day, we made this I don't know how to explain it, but it was this watershed of a model, and it's just really cool. Therefore, I will just hope that you don't shut it down. Thank you.
Sarah Rothermel.
Hi. So I drove my kids from Fillmore for 3 years because this is a family tradition. My husband graduated from Nordhoff, as did all his siblings, and his nephews are currently at Summit and at Nordhoff. So my kids were bound and determined that they were going to be part of that legacy. So right now I have 4 kids at Summit School. With that being said, we are on the Santa Paula address, but we are Ojai Unified School District. However, our commute to San Antonio would be 25 minutes for good weather. This is not something that's feasible for my family. My youngest is 4 years old, as is little Savannah over there falling asleep with mama. These babies are TK and K students who do not need to be put on a bus to be bussed down a mountain with high school and junior high students to have a 9-hour day. That is not healthy nor in the best interest of these children. The other option would be a more expensive option of putting in another bus. We have families that have one car, have no car. They might have gas money some days, and other days they might not. But you best believe it, they are up there volunteering for every function. We have a mother in the audience tonight who faithfully volunteers in the lower grade classrooms 2 times a week. She will get rides or walk there to fulfill her volunteer obligation because she cares. By cutting off a community to accessible education would be the most disheartening thing we could do. The next closest school is a 20 to 25-minute commute. For people without transportation, this is not an option. For these parents who support every function, who volunteer, we are robbing them of being able to do that in their children's education. They would be left with 2 options. They could remove themselves from their children's education, from all volunteer opportunities, from back-to-school nights, from talent shows, from any function held at that school because they do not have a means to get to there, or they could go into Santa Paula. That's the option they are left with. Because if you do not have a car and you do not have gas money to get to your child's school, what do you suggest we do? Next on the plate, if a kid's gonna be tardy or absent, which we know every one of you up there hates that word, but if you're gonna be 5 minutes late, your mama brings you to school 5 minutes late. But if the bus has left and she has no other way to get you to school, you are not tardy, you are absent. So you look at how many tardies we have across the board, and those will now become a full day of being absent versus a tardy, which neither are favorable, but I think any teacher will take a tardy over a complete missed day of school. But when you do not have a way to get to your school other than the morning bus, we have robbed people of that school day. These dancers here tonight were magnificent, but I don't think any of us in this room can argue that they were of varying ages. But they came together and they beautifully collaborated, and that's what we do at Summit. We mesh different grades together so that our students know how to work in this day and age with diversity, with different socioeconomical statuses, and age does not matter because you do not solve a problem by saying what grade are you and you have the answer. You take everybody's strengths and you mold them together, and by focusing on the strengths, you accomplish a greater goal than labeling yourself with a grade. My husband's a firefighter successful, his brother's a police officer, his sister works at Cal Lutheran, all products of the Ojai Unified School Districts, all graduates of Summit. You look at the Kesters, Marianne Radcliffe, the Everetts, those families are all products of Summit and have moved forward full force to be a strong force in the Ojai School District. These families help at Matilaha PTO and at Nordhoff PTO. We are a strong body and we work ever so hard to provide for our children. Art Trek, Food for Thought, every kid gets band or choir there. You know how they get choir? A mother in this audience wrote a check and said our children will have choir. We've never let a child that wants to play an instrument not play an instrument because we value every component of education and we value parent involvement. But when the next closest school is a 25-minute drive, if you do not have a car or you do not have gas money, you have robbed them of that opportunity to try to collaborate in their students' education. And that is not fair or just. Thank you.
Thank you. Mason Rothermel.
Hi everyone, my name is Mason Rothermel. I'm 8. I've been going to Summit for 4 years. They have been the best years of my life. When I first came to Summit, I was nervous and a little scared. But then I met somebody. His name was Diego, and we were best friends. My whole family went to Summit, and it was their home. It was a part of my family, and it still is a part of my family and still my home. My uncles, my aunt, and my dad all went to Summit. And if Summit got shut down, they would get shut down. I would get shut down. We all would get shut down. So why would anyone want to shut down Summit? Some want to close Summit because they think multi-grade classrooms are not beneficial. That is not true. Parents choose to send us to Summit knowing that we will be in multi-grade classroom. We work in groups, and what I have learned is that younger students can be smarter because everyone has their unique talents through projects at Summit. I have learned that you accomplish the most through collaboration. My new friend came to Summit. He did not know English, but together we were great because he is great at math and numbers. Sometimes people get frustrated, but through group work, we can solve anything, and that boosts students' confidence. I get to work at my academic level and get challenged. Because of this flexibility that comes with multi-grades, please vote to keep Summit open because I am tired of feeling worried and nervous that my school will be gone. Thank you.
Randy Rothermel.
That was my grandson and my daughter-in-law. I have had 5 children go through Summit School. I am currently the dad of the only 6th grader. And it's about him that I want to address you tonight. My son is autistic. And when he started kindergarten, he would hardly talk. And when he talked in phrases from movies. He didn't know how to form his own thoughts, so he borrowed thoughts from the movies, and that's how he would express himself. He wouldn't look at anybody. He wouldn't participate in class. If you saw him today, you would say, "Who is this kid?" He's a leader on campus. The kids look up to him. He leads them in hunts around the campus for insects. They go exploring. He's social. He's way behind academically. He's not academically like a 6th grader. It was a big fear of ours that he'd be ridiculed, he would be bullied. The kids took care of that. They embraced him. The teachers embraced him. More importantly, the parents embraced him. Parents sought him out at school functions and talked to him, tried to draw him out. It was something I couldn't see happening at a large school. They saved him. Now, the second thing I wanted to address is the idea of a community school. I know every school is a community school, but Summit is a little more unique because Summit creates the community up there. My wife and I moved up in Upper Ojai somewhere around 1982. It was a long time ago. I don't remember exactly. Our first son started there about 1986. And until he started that school, we hardly knew anybody. Those people that we met in 1986 are still part of our circle of friends. And that's the way it was up there. If you move up to Upper Ojai and you don't have kids at Summit School, you're not really part of the community. It's hard to be part of the community. And so that school creates that sense of community. It's beyond just a place for the 4-H to meet. It's beyond just a place for search and rescue to meet. It's a place where we go on Saturday afternoon in the summer and we hang out at the playground with the kids. It's a place to spend a summer evening watching the stars. It's our community. And we hope that you will take the opportunity to preserve that for us. Thank you.
Teresa Dutter.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank you for all of your hard work. I've been to all the meetings, except for just one in November last year. But I've seen you struggle with a very difficult issue, and that's to look at the entire school district to see how you can help out best. We have been struggling financially for many years. The reductions have been very, very horrible. And so I think you mushing through a very difficult possibility of closing one or more schools has been one of the hardest things ever. You know, when we think of reductions in staff or curricular support, whatever it is, that's hard. But when we think of closing a school and you being the body that has to do that, that's tough, and I'm really glad I'm not in your shoes. But I'm gonna try and make your decision a little bit more, a little bit easier. I've had the chance to see Summit School in action now for close to a decade. And there have been years when things have not gone well, and times when things are going well. And I'd say right now we are facing a decade or more of things going extremely well. That's because we finally have the right people on the bus. Kim Eck and Sherry Usher are kind of the dynamic duo, and we have the right support in place as well with the extra support that we have for instructional assistants or certificated staff like Mr. Vale. We've created a team that is stellar. It is really exceptional. The whole conversation with people coming up and saying, you know, this is my family's school, we've come here for generations, that's a very strong argument, but I think every community, every school has that sense of tradition that is important, but is it worth keeping a school open if it's not working? What I'd like to ask you is to really cull through why it would be so important to close the school. Is it truly needed? What problem is that going to solve? Our teachers do need a raise. I think there's no question about that. But is closing Summit School going to solve that problem? In my limited opinion, because I do not have all the facts, I can't see that that would really solve a problem, and the impact on the families involved would be so disastrous. So I would encourage you to really weigh that out and see if the positives outweigh the negatives. In my opinion, this team is doing so well, and with the multi-grade components that have been described, it has the potential of being one of those futuristic schools that other districts dream about having. They have the right people in place to be able to address the multi-grades and the support behind them. So I really want to say thank you again, because you have a very difficult decision ahead of you. I'm very certain that at this point in time going forward, we have the right people in place to make a huge difference in our district through Summit School. Thank you so much for your time.
Sherry Usher.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for the board for accepting my video this week that I submitted to you, and hopefully taking the time to look at Sir Ken Robinson's changing education paradigm. I'm so sorry I sent you the wrong one at first, but I had this whole speech to write or to say today, but after listening to everybody in the audience, I just don't think that I could even compare to what you've heard tonight from everybody. I will say, though, that as though some people might think that the multi-age class is very difficult, I actually find it to be most rewarding and one of those kinds of models moving towards the 21st century classroom. It allows for the new Common Core standards and the next generation science standards to be implemented to its fullest, because those are based on collaborative models. What I really like about the multi-age classroom, besides everybody in that classroom, is that as a teacher, one of our most challenges is to challenge the gifted or gate or whatever you want to label that. And for me, it's not a challenge anymore, because I have that child who we would have just given an extra assignment to or struggled to find an assignment for, would have worked independently by themselves. That doesn't happen in the classroom anymore, and I think you could see that from some of the younger children that you heard from tonight. They're challenged because they can move in groups, in collaborative opportunities, they can move forward. It's also on the other end. You can even go into the other end. Those children aren't left to go work independently or by themselves or with one teacher. They're working with a group of people, and they're being challenged to a level in which they can participate. I'd love you to come up and look at my in the tech lab, as we're in the tech lab, and I'm working with a student, and someone comes and says, Mrs. Usher, I need help. And I'll say, can somebody help them? And you've got kids of all ages running to those computers to help those other children. And it happens in the classroom too. I'm working with a student, and someone will say, Miss Usher, I need help. Can you help me? And I'll say, can somebody go and help that student? And it is, sure, everybody, there's people popping up all the time to help people. It's a community, it's a collaborative environment. I am passionate about being at Summit. I have so many plans for Summit, as you heard. We took a hike up Cesar Canyon Road the other day. We're studying the watershed. We're going to go to the top of the Topas and look down the Ventura County watershed. We're going to be sustainable housing and build little houses out of, what way should the sun come in, to the north or to the south? Which way will it go? It's a unique environment. And in my education recently, a couple years ago at Cal State Channel Islands, they were teaching us Common Core and how to differentiate in the classroom. And when I first heard that I was going to go to Summit, I thought, that's it. That is the classroom of the 21st century, and I will master that. Thank you so much.
Sherry, can you remind me how many students you have in your class?
25, although 26 coming in, hopefully.
Jennifer Carnine.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Carnine. My daughter currently attends Summit School. She's a 5th grader. She's been there since kindergarten. She has had a successful career there so far. 1 more year to go, and I would really love for her to finish and graduate from Summit School. She started out as a shy, quiet child who didn't know anyone, and now she loves everyone at that school, considers them their friend, their family member. She's an only child, so her friendships mean a lot to her and to me. Oh, great, I'm gonna cry. Anyway, a lot has been said already, but I would like to say it's a community. The kids help each other in the class. I think the multi-grade classroom is very successful. Myself, my brothers, sisters, all my friends grew up in Ojai and also graduated from Summit School. I am a nurse. My brother's a fireman. I have another fireman in my family. My sister's an interior decorator. My dad's a fireman. All my friends that grew up there are very successful policemen, lawyers, teachers, and all from multi-graded classrooms. And if that's not success, then I don't know what is. Also, not just their careers, but how the kids work together. When you're in the workforce, I'm in the medical profession, and it's a team, and there's no I in teamwork. And all these kids at Summit, they are a team. They help each other, they communicate, and in an emergency, they would be there for you. A kid falls down, everyone helps them up. And in the real world, that's how it is, and that's how it should be. It shouldn't just be about cutthroat, I'm better than you, I get better grades. It's all about working together as humans. And Summit is very special, and please don't close it. Thank you.
Logan Fogata.
Hi, my name is Logan Fogata. I'm in 5th grade. Please don't close our school. Everybody in school loves Summit. Besides, we have amazing teachers and activities. And Mrs. Usher and Mrs. Eck are the best teachers. Every day the teachers greet us in the morning with a handshake. With Mrs. Usher, if Mrs. Usher is busy, then our friends are always there to help. Thank you.
Malone Fagata.
Hi, my name is Malone Fagata, and I am in 5th grade at Summit School. Until last year, I really disliked school, but then Miss Usher came and it started to get easier. Miss Usher lets us work together, and she helps me get it and jumpstarts my brain. I look forward to going to school now, and that's because of Summit and Miss Usher. Miss Usher is a great teacher, so I do not know what I would do if you closed our school. Younger kids would like to have a chance to live the life at Summit Elementary. Summit is an amazing place, so please do not close our school. And Miss Usher and Miss Eck help, and I want to finish my last year at Summit School. Thank you.
Rhonda Fogata.
Okay, first off, that's so wrong letting my kids go before me because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get through this now. So, ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Rhonda Fagata. I am the co-president of Summit Elementary's PTO. This is my 3rd year on the PTO. I'm here today to speak to you on behalf of our school, our community. I want you to look out there. That is our family. Calling ourselves a family to you, it may seem silly, but Summit is a family. My daughters, they've been at Summit since they were 5 years old. They're 11. They have made friends here. They have moved through the grades with these same group of friends. These are relationships that will last a lifetime. They are brothers and they are sisters. They look out for each other. They protect the younger classmen at their school. I have a son that's attending Summit. He's been there now. This is his 4th year. He attended 2 years at preschool with Mrs. Eck. He finished TK with Mrs. Eck, and he's currently in the kindergarten with Mrs. Eck. Ethan knows every student on campus, and they know him. Yeah, we're a family. Our family has provided increased enrollment to the school district, as well as increased revenue through necessary small schools, over and above the LCFF funding. We should not be here tonight discussing closing this school. We should be here tonight discussing how we increase enrollment. We are currently 9 students from the 52 or 49 ADA from getting this district another $145,000. That's 2 teachers. Instead, we stand here united as a family, asking you to consider keeping us open. Have you considered that closing Summit would mean the loss of the necessary small school funding? Have you considered that closing Summit is actually going to cost this district money? Family, could you please raise your hands? Those are the family members that are committed to going to another district if you close our school. 43 students will not drive to the Valley to attend another OUSD school. They will choose to leave, which means a loss of $8,547 per student, or approximately $367,000 to this district. It's a sad day for those of us who call Summit Elementary's home. Regardless of your vote, Summit School will remain. We are a community, and we will charter in the Upper Ojai School District. We are a meeting place for Chief Peak 4-H, search and rescue. We're a playground for the Upper Ojai community. The Summit School, again, will charter. Either we'll be there with the help of OUSD, or we'll find someone else to help us out. Because we are a family, and we are committed to staying together like we have for the last 105 years. Thank you.
Rod Thompson.
Good evening to the members of the board and the audience. I didn't prepare anything tonight, and I'm glad I didn't. There were a lot of things that were well spoken already. I don't want to go over them again and bore you to tears. Little background, my family's been in the area for almost 150 years. We've attended all the schools in Upper Ojai. I'm one of many. My father attended a single teacher school and did very well with his life, and my uncles. I had fortunate have had two teachers in the school at the time, and they were both excellent. The students in that school are still long-term friends of mine. We've stayed together all these years. You may say, well, this multiple grade classroom doesn't work well. It does. Many of us went on to be successful. I went to Nordhoff and took a little test at the end, and I got my letter in math. The top, I don't know if they still do that, but the top student, the highest scoring student, gets a math letter. Summit School produced one. Wow. So it's there, and we learned social skills. We learned to not be bigoted, to discriminate. We learned to get along. And I didn't know bigotry or discrimination until I got in the Marine Corps during Vietnam. I didn't see it. Summit was a very good place. This community that was fostered has been there since my great-grandparents were there. They centered around the school, the activities, their kids, and even people that didn't have students there at school are involved. I talked to one today, Kathy, who she and her husband just moved recently. She goes down and volunteers at school. They don't have anybody there, but she loves it. She loves the community and the fact that we all center around that school. And were you to take that away, something would have to take its place. We're not going to go clear down to the lower valley. Our little kids aren't going to walk that far like they can between schools here. There'll be something else, and please, I just beg you, reconsider, keep Summit open. It's completely different than many of the other schools. It is a community and not just numbers and figures. Thank you.
Nicoletta, and I hope I'm not massacring this last name, Missler.
Yes, my name is Nicoletta Meisler, and I am Italian. I just want to share with you some opinion as a foreigner, as an outsider, about this school, which, and I ask your excuse in advance for my English, but I moved with my husband to Upper Ojai 10 years ago, and one of the first best impressions was indeed this small, tiny school still surviving in a world where there's no more such things like small schools. I used to live in Italy, in Tuscany, and I remember that there were little schools like Summit, and now they're all closed. Now they're all being transformed into chic resort for American tourists. So I mean, these things like Summit School is a precious jewel in a social context and in a general context, probably, I mean, also in a worldwide context, because these small things, they are so important for us. They must be preserved, they must be helped to grow, because they small is beautiful, not the big, the huge things. So it must really be something which we must take care of. And the other things we remember, it was so pleasant to see the children which were go to school with their legs. They were using their legs for going to school, moving. I mean, not going by car, not using... And I mean, I don't want, I mean, there are many other things I could say about Summit School, because a school is something which creates a community. I don't say anything about teaching, because I used to be a professor at the university, so I don't have experience about elementary school. But this, what I can tell by my personal experience, that we met these children because these children were children of our neighbors. And then after 10 years' time, we met again these children. Now they are going to a very good school, to a very good college. So they are articulate, they are intelligent. So they got something very important from this small school. So that's all I can say. Okay.
Jen Hawkins.
I'm going to try to get through this because I'm not a very good public speaker. My name is Jennifer Hawkins. I am currently the director of the child care programs at Summit School. I'm also co-vice president of the PTO and alumni of class of 94. And more importantly, I have a fifth grader attending Summit School. A little bit of background on me. I started school at Summit at kindergarten. I had Mr. Brown. He was amazing, along with Mr. Schofield and all those teachers that a lot of us still carry in our hearts. I was that kid with social anxiety issues and speech disabilities until 4th or 5th grade. So I'm very self-conscious, and I was very self-conscious of my daughter starting public school, so I put her in a private school when she was in kindergarten. She hated it. I took her right away to Summit with the help of Marianne Ratcliffe. And I was so scared. I remember telling Mrs. Turpin, "You're gonna hate my daughter, oh my gosh, blah, 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 blah," the first day of school. And her first words were like, "She's 5. She's got her whole life," you know, and her first words were, "She's not bossy, she just has leadership skills." And I was like, okay, you know, we can do this. And I majored in child development, and I've taught at many preschools around the valley, some private, some not. And I never moved her away from Summit, even though she's had many chances to go to a private school. She stayed at Summit because, to me, you can't buy that. You can't buy the experience they get at Summit. And she has friends, like what Rhonda said, for a lifetime. I have the same best friend from when we were 5 from Summit School. It's a community that it's hard to explain, and for outsiders that say, well, yeah, it's a small school, let's just, you know, get rid of it. It's not like that. These kids really don't have anywhere to go. We take kids in that got bullied from a different district, don't know how to fit in, and you see them and their parents just start bawling because their kids are getting welcomed in arms of other children. And that's so important. And I'm not saying any other school in Ojai doesn't acquire that, but Summit, I feel, is so close that we give them a chance to be able to grow. And if you close us, then a lot of these children aren't gonna stay in Ojai just because they came to Summit for that specialness, and they will decide to go through Ojai, through junior high and high school, when they get stronger from what they get at Summit. And, you know, I'm not super successful in life, but I call myself a great mother, and I have Summit to thank for that. It's instilled morals and values in me that, I mean, I'm up at night, PTO crazy, you know, supporting my daughter's school, because at the end of the day, it's about them. It's not about how much sleep we lose or whatever. I just plea with you guys to look at the bottom line of our kids' futures, not how much value they bring to the district, because they bring value to the world on how we teach them. Thank you.
Steve Weed.
Well, so much for other comments at the start and school comments later, huh? The first thing that I want to say is that I was here 2 weeks ago and heard a lot of Miramonte parents talk about their school, and I had no idea. And I've listened to a lot of Summit parents and kids, some very well-spoken kids, talk about their experience at Summit, and I've been greatly encouraged by that. And I know the board's first option is to not close any schools. At least that seems how it's leaning. And, you know, I don't really care. You know, many people have said, hey, you know, for $100,000 or $200,000, what difference does it make? And so I'm fine with whatever the board decides. Like I said, I have a great deal of respect for the people that are on the board now. And so I'm not here to talk about the expenses part of it, okay? What I would say are several things at this point. First of all, I would strongly encourage the board and the district to take the information that's been presented here and archive it. I don't want to go through this in the next few years again, but who knows? You know, financially, that may be the situation we're in, but I don't want to go through this again. And we know what our budget is for the next 3 years or 4 years out projected. And we'll have these same issues again. What I would encourage you to do with that archive is 2 years from now, as you will probably need to consider an operating bond, that you take this information and you make this front and center for your campaign for that bond measure. Don't let these moments get away, okay? They're too important to our community and our district. And the second thing that I would really encourage you to do is to get to know your community. This has been a special opportunity these last few weeks to really dig down and get to know our community. But our community is changing. And you all know that I've been somewhat vocal about issues that affect our community in general. And you need to really understand how that community is changing. In our mayoral and council meetings, there's been a lack of information that's been forthcoming. So I took the opportunity to pull a report from an organization called Southern California Associations of Government.
Can you stay on the microphone because we can't hear you?
To hell with the microphone. Oh, glad you didn't hear that.
No, we didn't.
So it's hard to do this thingy with my gimpy leg, but I would encourage you, each and every one of you, to find this report online. One of the things that was most important that I saw there has to do with economic development. And your job at school board is not just to review the impacts of what comes before you in terms of school board, but it's to take a look at the sustainability of this school district. And that's impacted directly by economic development. And we all know there's challenges with interacting with the government agencies, but when you take a look at how the job base has decreased in this valley, you need to consider that. Because if you're going to bring school people in here, you know, people that have kids, they're not retired people, okay? And we need to take a look at how that affects our schools. And I know some of you become more vocal and more interested in short-term rentals because that obviously affects housing stock. But you need to broaden your scope about what you look at as a school board because it directly affects the viability of our schools. Thank you.
Maria Montalvo. Has she left? I guess. Maria Montalvo. Do we need an interpreter for her, or are we? Mr. Vale, are you going to assist her?
Mi nombre es María Montalvo. Mi niña acaba de entrar a la escuela.
My name is Maria Montalvo. My daughter just started in the school.
Y le encanta mucho esa escuela, mi hija.
She loves the school.
Cuando la tenía en las otras escuelas lloraba.
When I had her in the
Me
other
tenía
school,
que quedar en la escuela esperando a ver
she was
cuánto
crying.
aguantaba la maestra.
I had
Y
to stay
ahí
in
no
the
ha llorado
school
mi hija ni un día, nada.
to see how long she was going to be in the class, and she hasn't cried at all. She loves the school so much.
Y me gustaría que no cierren esa escuela porque mi hija está bien alegre ahí, a gusto.
I would like for you not to close the school because my daughter is so happy in the school.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much.
Marianne Ratcliffe.
Hi, I had prepared a report that I hope you can look at. I can't match anything that they're going to say. Anything that I say is going to pale in comparison. Again, I just want to repeat from the financial side because Hank has trained me very well. That closing a large school does not add up to even 1% of the school district budget, as was reported at the 7-Eleven committee. So closing a small school as small as Summit's, is far less than not even 1%. I just wanted to look at a couple of assumptions that were in your packet for the 2015-16 elementary school consolidation savings. In that savings, for total personnel costs, it was $91,751. Summit is broken out as the portion of the principal's salary. That would not go away for the district. That is a principal who serves 2 schools, so that would still continue to be a cost for the district. So that is $91,000 minus $51,000. Also, the potential lost revenue there for Summit at $40,000, that assumes that 5 children will leave. Far more than 5 would leave, as is reflected in a poll that the school district, that the school has generated. So that shows that the true potential savings that would be reflected accurately on this, based on what I've just said regarding the principal's salary, and then the potential loss is actually $14,958 that would be saved per this column if you accept those assumptions that I've just addressed. And I just want to state unequivocally, far more is probable that the school district would lose as a result of closing Summit School. And I have provided some specific figures to back up my comments. And I thank you so much for your time.
Yvette Landeros.
Hello, my name is Yvette Landeros and I go to Summit School. I have gone to Summit for 5 years. Please don't shut down Summit School. If you do shut down Summit School, you will break my heart and maybe the teachers' hearts. I feel like going to Summit School is an honor. When we have recess, some of the kids at Summit School, we go
to recess and we catch butterflies or lizards and bugs. And I really like that school because they let us do that. And some other schools don't let us do that. And this is, thank you, and this is Riley's. Save Summit School. Hi, my name is Riley Hawkins, and I go to Summit School. I'm in 5th grade, and I love it. And I don't know what I would do without it. My mom went to Summit. It's our community. We have multi-grade classrooms that teach us life lessons, like how to make people that need it and how others with their more expenses can help me. This school is so amazing. Please don't close our school. We are a community. We all know each other. We had 400 people come to our school talent show and support us and eat the Habit hamburgers. The community envelopment brings people of all ages together for a positive reason. The children of Upper Ojai Education. Thank you.
Jennifer Hawkins. Jim Bailey.
That was great, catching lizards. That is really important when you're a kid. Hello, school board and friends, Upper Ojai. So my name is Jim Bailey, and this is my 16th, I taught 16 years in Ojai, start again. I've been teaching in Ojai for 16 years, and I taught 9 here at Matilaha, so it's really nice to be back, and I taught 6 at Oak Grove. Now I'm running a learning center in Upper Ojai with my gifted wife, Natasha Efris, and our program includes a youth makerspace, farm school component, and a forest school component. And in preparation, we had to do a lot of research before we went down this path to see how we should do this. And particularly in the creation of the youth makerspace, I spent a lot of time reading about innovation in assessment and learning that was coming out of Stanford University, and they have something there called the Transformative Learning Technologies Lab. And it's directed by a guy named Paulo Blickstein. The research compares a constructionist model of education, which is largely student-directed and advocates a highly personal form of learning that comes from making, building, and creating one's own theories, against what they call a mass-produced instructionism, and that they say is currently in practice. And I think you can guess which one they think is better for the kids. Now, I say this because I think to close Summit School would be to miss an opportunity to ride a wave of innovation that's going on in education. I think the way forward is to maybe expand Summit School and expand what it offers. Data in Ventura is a prime example of a school that was maybe languishing a bit, but through some innovation and some remaking is really quite a popular place with a lot of families clamoring to get in and hoping to be on the waiting list. I think what I've seen that families want is something closer to what Finland has. They want more student-directed curriculum. They want kids to be able to go up to the forest to catch lizards. They care a little less about state tests, but they love it when their kid is joyful about learning and wants to go to school and is happy to be there. Multi-age classrooms are great. I don't know, what they're saying with the research not supporting that, because Stanford likes multi-age classrooms in their makerspaces. So I think you should give Summit a makerspace or something like that. I think you should treat Summit like a lab school. Maybe you can expand what it offers. And I can say that this might be a way to increase enrollment because our little offering in Upper Ojai has been a huge success for us. We are already at capacity. We have a waiting list, and the reason is because, you know, I think we've made this makerspace opportunity for the kids. So if there's any way that I could help the school board in that direction or Summit School in that direction, I'd offer what I've learned over the last several months and see if maybe you can make it a hub for something new instead of closing it down.
Danny Everett.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for taking your time and listening to all the comments that have to be made here. And I know it is a very difficult choice, and we're hoping that the outcome is a good, positive outcome for Summit School. I wanted to speak on my personal kind of, I guess, the consequences of what happened, since this has kind of been hanging and kind of out in the community for a while now. And I feel that Summit School has slowly been assassinated, because I think one of the problems that we're having with the school is the number of students that are there. And we as a family personally had to make a very painful decision of do we leave our kids there? And we were able to get one of our 3 children to graduation and to graduate from Summit. However, I think what is lost sometimes when these adult decisions need to be made and they're dragged out, the stress not only on the adults, but I think we forget about the children. And our kids really had a hard time, and it was very difficult for them each year at the end of every school year wondering if their school was going to be there the next year. And for us as a family, it just came a time where, for the health of our children, the peace of mind for our children, we had to move them. And I think that has happened for many families there at Summit, and I really do appreciate for the ones that have stuck it out and have remained there and keep the school there. I'm split, because I still am very present at that campus. I cooked the graduation dinner for the graduating class last year, because I still feel that I'm part of that family. It split us apart from our family, but we are still connected there. I think we have to also consider the thing I love about education now is that we know so much more. And the thing that I know is that every student learns differently. And I think if you take away the opportunity for students that thrive in a smaller community, that thrive in a more personable campus, if you take that away from them, you're taking away another way that student can thrive and learn. And I also know that if we were talking about a sports program and something that a sports program needed, I think that what people could say is find a way to make it happen so we can get to that final goal. And I think for the board, I think you really do need to reconsider and find a way to keep that school open and keep that community together. And if you do, I really feel that a lot of people will come back to that school, because it won't have that threat of not being there the next year. Thank you.
We have one more speaker, and then I think do you want to say? Okay, we'll have one more speaker, then Dr. Bang is just going to say a few words. We'll take a short break to give everybody a chance to stretch their legs, and then the board will begin its discussion. So Shelley Rothermel.
Thank you, Board, for allowing us to speak tonight. I'm here just to talk on 2 different little issues. One of them is the validity of the Summit School as an academic facility. My husband and I bought property up there in the Upper Ojai area in 1982 for the purpose of just that school. We had the possibility of going to Ventura, Oxnard, Santa Paula, Fillmore, and we chose Upper Ojai just for the school. In fact, we have been the longest running continuous family. We have had children in the Ojai School District and Summit for 30 years straight with 6 children. So, as being a teacher for the last 27 years, teaching everything from preschool up to 8th grade, I am in a school that teaches preschool through 8th grade. And I was talking to my principal about leveled classrooms. I currently teach a leveled classroom. I have 3 ages, 4 different levels. And I told her about Mrs. Usher's class. And she would like to have myself and another teacher from our school go and observe Mrs. Usher's, because by far the best example of a leveled classroom I have ever seen in 27 years has been Mrs. Usher. So. She has not only taken students that have physical disabilities, but have academic disabilities, autism, speech, et cetera, et cetera. These students do not have any type of bullying. They do not have any type of problems with each other. There is no disagreements as far as these students are concerned. In fact, last year I had a student whose parents pulled them out of our school, and she was looking for a place to put him because he was having issues at our school, and I suggested Summit School, and he was very happy there, and he now goes to Matilla Hall. So as far as academics, Summit is par excellence in my viewpoint. The other issue that I wanted to very briefly touch upon is when we moved on there in 1982, we were welcomed by the community because they said, oh gosh, you have children, they're going to close the school, and the more children we get in here, we're going to have that. We saw that in 1982, we saw that in 1992, we saw it in the 2000s, and then in the last 2 or 3 years. This has been an ongoing thing, and it was mentioned earlier in 1942. For whatever reason, Summit seems to be the school to put on the chopping block first. And you're really doing yourself a disadvantage if you decide to close Summit School, because they've already received a reputation of such academic excellence. Thank you.
I spoke too soon. We have Susie Taylor.
Sorry, thank you. I wasn't planning on speaking. I think I've made my viewpoints pretty clear to the board, but just listening to all the Summit parents, it moved me to want to say one last thing. And as you all know, I'm a Miners Oaks parent. And this has been a really long journey for all of us. Excuse me. And I just wanted to ensure that this board hears the Summit parents and that the threat of the financial loss to this OUSD, I think it's real. And I think the financial loss to the district as a whole doesn't outweigh the savings that's been presented. And I would really like to emphasize that we consider as a board supporting new models in our schools, not just at Summit, but at all of our schools. I think supporting all the schools, supporting each other is really vital to move forward. And we have so many different models to follow for success. We have environmental magnet, we have technology, we have arts. Each one of our 5 schools offers something unique, and it makes me sad that I don't really see a lot of Topa Topa parents here or Miramani parents here speaking on behalf of other than for their school. And I'd really like to see all the schools supporting each other. I think that's vital.
Thanks, Linda. So let me just take a couple of minutes to put in context where we are in this meeting tonight, a little bit how we got here and what happens after tonight. But most important, Kathy, do we have some refreshments? We do. So when Linda decides it's time for a break in 5 minutes, that's all I'll take here. We can exit that door in the first classroom up the stairs. We have a lot of grapes, a lot of cookies, and I assume lemonade. Are we still? We have still the same fare as we've had the last couple of weeks. I want to say 2 things before I talk about the structure of tonight's meeting and then forthcoming. I had a chance to spend 2 hours early afternoon today with about 15 members of the Summit School community, staff, parents, longtime community members like the Rothermills. Thank you for coming. And I won't share the details of the meeting except to say that we agreed together that the best way for the Summit community to represent itself would be to come here tonight and present their case personally as parents and in other contexts. Excuse me? No. That the role tonight was to help the board learn about what they valued, and we left that meeting with that commitment, and I salute you. I think you did a fabulous job. I do. Second, the next time I'm speaking and I find myself mispronouncing a word, I'm going to remember that Mason Rothermill actually mispronounced one word in his wonderful speech. So, Mason, you're going to make me feel better when I catch myself with some utterance that makes no sense whatsoever. Congratulations. Not only on the Pledge of Allegiance, but on your speech. I'm not going to take a lot of time, as I said, to talk about details, many of which we covered in the meeting this afternoon, but I do want to underscore a commitment that I made on behalf of the board, in writing actually to them before the meeting and then at the meeting. And I want to clarify that as these meetings have unfolded, going back to May when we set an initial calendar, when we specified what we thought the meetings would cover in each of the many Wednesday evening sessions, the Monday session, October 17th, was set as the final date, the absolute final date. By then, the board would make the decision on the elementary school's configuration for the upcoming years. When we made those Wednesday commitments, it was absolutely clear then, and it's clearer now, that we have to be flexible. So in fact, the last meeting on September 14th, when the agenda was constructed, we felt that we were only going to have 4 board members here because Mr. Whipple had a very significant professional commitment. That then, in between constructing the agenda and the evening itself, went away, so all 5 were here. But the agenda wasn't set up to have a specific action taken. So when we finished that meeting, we had a consensus that we would have this meeting tonight, we would hear from the community, and then as you see in the agenda, I don't read to people what's on in front of them, you can see what the plan was for tonight. That was what we talked about a week ago. But the board decided, I think, with wisdom, that they would try to make a decision tonight, vote in fact, on what's known as the tentative position of the board on this issue, in order to respect the time that people took to come tonight, speak their mind, and then the board will talk about their views tonight and ultimately vote. There was, however, some feeling on the part of the PTO last night at Summit that there was a commitment to actually have the vote tomorrow night. And so, bottom line, with the commitment of the board members, speaking with Linda, who makes the final call, I made a commitment this afternoon that the board would only vote tonight if the sense of the board was to keep Summit open. If there was a statement tonight on the part of our 5 board members where it was clear to Linda, clear to the board members, that there was either an uncertainty about whether to keep Summit open or to close it, then tonight they will not vote. And we will reconvene a week from tomorrow night to have more conversation, and then the board would vote. So you have to be patient a little bit as we come back from break. You hear the comments, and ultimately the board tonight will make a statement. It may be a formal vote, but if it's a formal vote, it would only be to keep Summit open. Okay? That's the way it'll work, and I appreciate the cooperation of the board members as we work through this. We have tried to be as 100% transparent as possible. Every document that the 7-Eleven committee has looked at, every document the board has looked at on this subject is on our website and has been there for months. So I hope that clarifies where we are after we come back, and then the next step is, as I said in the agenda, for the board members to discuss their thoughts about what you said tonight and to identify how they feel about each of the two options that were left open as of the September 14th special meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Bangser. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. We'll reconvene at 7:30. So you're all welcome to have cookies and lemonade and grapes in the science room, and we'll see you then. All right, so we have a couple of, we have 4 more speaker requests. So Juliana Cooper is first. And as again, please try to keep it to our 3-minute time limit.
Good evening. My name is Juliana Cooper, and my son, Sabas Malgar, goes to Summit School. This is his 2nd year at Summit. I wanted to share, it took me a year to decide to find a school for my son. Well, not to decide, but to find a school where my son would be happy. The year prior to Sabas going to Summit School, I saw my son declining, and he was very depressed, very sad. Not to mention, I mean, he had reason to. We had gone through divorce. He had gone through the loss of his stepdad, and also the almost losing my father, which is the other main, big men that he looked up to. And he also had a problem at school because my son, who is a very, to me, special, he was born without his fingers on his right hand. But my son doesn't know that he doesn't have fingers on his right hand side, because it doesn't limit him in anything that he does since he was a baby. And so I've never treated him as a child with disability. So he's never learned to say that he has a disability, because he challenges himself every day and doesn't let me do anything for him. He finds a way. But the year prior to him going to Summit, I saw him getting really depressed and not wanting to go to school, getting stomach aches, and when I looked into it, my son was getting bullied at school because of his hand. And my son would not speak up and tell me, because my son, he's so used to finding a solution for everything and not, complaining and not, finding himself, he likes to find his own solution. But my sister-in-law, who worked there, would help at lunchtime, would tell me that, this was one thing that she's seen, and she was trying to keep an eye on him. And it became a big issue when he just didn't want to go to school anymore. We worked with the doctor, tried to find out what it was that he was having, and it came out to be just the stress of going to school. And it took me almost 2 weeks to get the Santa Paula School District to release him with the doctor's note, so I can bring him to Summit School. And I can't express to you what a big difference it's made in these last 2 years that he's been at Summit. My son is thriving. He's just made so many amazing friends and has just grown in many ways, in the sense of, he's very intelligent, and it's just so great to see him now wanting and loving to going to school. He's still there at the school because he wanted to stay at the school. They're watching him there at the school, which because he loves it. He just loves being there. He loves the kids that he's with. He's just thriving. I plead with you guys, please do not close Summit School. I work at Todd Road Jail. I see many product of our school districts nowadays. And just what I see at Summit is something that you guys need to start harvesting, because it is a gem that you guys have. What we have there is what our school districts need. And I mean, I see so many inmates that tell me stories of their school and how they, what they had with the overcrowding. Santa Paula has an overcrowding, and yet they don't want to release their kids. I mean, let's find a solution. Let's find a method where we can help some of these kids come over and maybe give Summit a chance and to share the wealth that they have. Thank you.
Valerie Bullock.
Good evening. I'm kind of late to the party. I just got here, so what I may say, I'm sure has already been said, but I'm sure it's worth saying again. I don't know who's pushing to close Summit. I kind of wonder what benefit you personally are getting from it, because the people in Upper Ojai won't benefit. The families, the kids won't benefit. The rest of Ojai Valley won't benefit, because you're going to be spending a bucket of money busing kids down the mountain to the schools in the valley, or you're going to lose all the money from the state because the families aren't going to come to the Ojai Valley School District. They're not going to send their kids there. I wouldn't. Summit School has value. The families have value. The school isn't just a school or a building to them. It's an extension of their families. I don't know how many generations of families have gone to that school, but it is truly an extension of their families. They work hard all year long to raise funds to supplement the school, to take that burden off of the school district. And this is a slap in the face to all those parents and families and the friends of families who support the school so that they can stay open. It is very needed. It's the only school there. I cannot imagine what the benefit would be. They have multi-grade classrooms, and we all know that's pivotal to building confidence and leadership and self-esteem. The older kids helping the younger kids feeling important and nurtured. That's huge. I think that's all I have to say, except I don't know, again, who's pushing to have this done, but shame on you. And if the rest of you voted in, shame on you as well. And again, I think somebody must be benefiting from this. And if you find out who's doing it, you ought to insist on getting your fair share. Thank you.
Rigo Vidalis. I think, do you need an interpreter? Yes, okay.
Okay, buenas noches.
Good evening.
Mi nombre es Rigo Vidales.
My name is Rigo Vidales.
Represento a mi hijo Rigo Vidales Jr.
I represent my son,
Él
Rigo
va-
Vidales Jr. He's
él-
going to
Él va a la escuela Summit.
the Summit School.
Él está muy contento en la escuela.
He's very happy
Llega
in
muy
school.
contento a la
He
casa
arrives at
todos los
home
días.
very happy every day.
Y cuando está de
And when
vacaciones,
he's,
él
on
se le hace tarde
vacation,
que ya llegue la clase otra
He
vez para irse.
can't wait for the school to arrive
Él está
because he wants to
contento
go.
ahí.
He's happy.
Está muy contento
He's
con
so
todas las
happy with
maestras que le
everything, the
ayudan.
teachers that help him.
Yo también estoy muy contento
That
con todas
I'm
las maestras,
also happy with
la
all the
directora,
teachers, the director, the
con
principal,
todas las que forman
with
parte del
everyone that
grupo.
is members of that group,
Para mí
that
son
team.
mi
For me,
familia.
they are my family.
Y
And
a mí me agarra muy cerquitas ahí.
this is very close to me.
Como 2 millas y media, ya
About
tiene mi
2.5
niña ahí 5
miles.
años allí en la
I have
escuela.
my daughter there for about 5 years
Ha
in the
ayudado un
school.
poquito a la escuela también,
I've
hago
helped a little bit at the
tacos
school.
y
I
comidas
make
así.
tacos
Y
and
les
some
he hecho
food,
comida también ahí a la
and I
escuela y
brought some food
les ha
to the
gustado.
school, and they've liked
Y
it.
mi hijo se siente muy
My
contento
son,
porque yo les
he's
hago
very
comida
happy
también ahí
because I
en la
make the
escuela.
food for the school.
Pues
And
no me gustaría que
well,
cerraran la
I wouldn't
escuela
like for you to close the school
porque pues
because
yo tengo un problema de
I
espalda
have a
de operar.
problem in my back. I had a surgery,
me agarra muy retirado para
and
manejar.
it is too far for me to
Y para mí
drive.
está cerquitas
So
ahí.
that is very close.
En el tiempo que hace
And
mucho frío, pues
the
yo,
time when it's
la
very
verdad,
cold,
duro hasta un mes que no
truthfully,
puedo
it's about a
caminar.
month that I can't really walk.
Trabajo muy poco.
I work
pues
very
ayudo por
little,
allá a
but
vecinos que
so I
me dan
help
trabajo.
different neighbors. They give me
Dos,
some
tres personas
work,
que
2 or 3 people
confían en mí
that
y
trust me,
están contentos conmigo,
and they're
me dan
happy
trabajo.
with me. They give me
Por ahí, si
work.
quieres, cuando yo
Very
puedo,
close
hago
by.
y
When I
les ayudo.
can, I go and I
Pero,
help
por favor,
them.
no me gustaría
But
que cerraran la
please,
escuela porque
I
yo
wouldn't
estoy
like
muy
for you to
contento
close the school because
y
I'm
me
so
agarro
happy.
un poquito más retirado de
And then it
de
would
mi
be
casa para traerlos y yo me
too
enfermo otra vez.
far to bring the kids.
Mi
If I
problema de
get
espalda,
ill
tengo una
again,
cirugía.
my back, I do have a surgery.
Y pues ese problema cuando
Because
hace mucho frío,
that's my
pues,
problem. When it's
me
too
caigo otra
cold,
vez.
I
se me pone
fail
un poquito
again,
complicado
and
para
it's
manejar.
complicated for me to drive.
Yo la verdad estoy muy contento con
Truthfully,
todas
I'm
ellas
so happy with everyone
porque forman
because
parte de
they
la
are
escuela y
part of the
los maestros para mí
school,
también.
the teachers for
Muy
me.
contento.
Very
Con
happy
todas.
with everybody.
Vamos a tener otra comida, yo pienso
We're
que
going
el
to have
28.
another dinner the 28th.
ayudarles a
I
hacer
am
la
going
comida.
to help cook,
Y finalmente
and
y no me gustaría que
and I
cerraran la escuela, por
wouldn't
favor.
like for you to close the
Tengo otro
school,
amigo que
please.
también
I have
está
another friend
enfermo, tiene su
that
niña
he's
ahí.
also ill,
también
sick,
vive
and
cerquita
is
de ahí.
he
Él
has
está
his
enfermo de un
daughter
riñón
there. He has a
y no
kidney
trabaja.
problem, and he can work.
Se le pone complicado para
It's
traer también a su
complicated
niña
for
a
him
otra
to bring the
escuela.
daughter to another
Dice él que
school.
también
He
no le
says
gustaría
as
eso.
well that he wouldn't like that.
So, por favor,
So
les pido que
please,
no
I
cierren la
ask
escuela.
you
Que
to
nos
not
ubicamos.
close. We plead with you.
Es todo y
That's all.
mucho gusto.
Very nice meeting you.
Teresa Zamora.
Hello, my name is Teresa Zamora, and I'm just here to let you know how hard it's been to find the perfect school for my son. He went to preschool in Santa Paula for a whole year. He had to wear glasses, which is very common nowadays, but he still got bullied. He didn't want to wear them when he went there. It was really hard for 3 months to find the perfect school when he was going to start kindergarten. My whole family attended Summit School. There's 7 of us. We all went through Summit School. We graduated, attended Matelaha, Nordhoff. It's a wonderful school. It's a family. It's a community. They keep our kids down to earth, humbled, help others. And I beg you not to close it. I don't know what I'm going to do if I have to drive another 25 minutes to get onto the nearest high school. So that's all I have to say. My son's very happy. We're all very happy with Summit. And we'll keep volunteering and helping with whatever we can. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to start our discussion, and I'm going to ask each board member to comment on their thoughts on. We have 2 proposals before us. One is to not close any school at all, and the other one is to close Summit. So these are 2 possibilities. I'm not saying we haven't made any decisions, obviously. So we're going to talk about these and see what each of our opinion is, and then if it looks like we're getting close to some sort of consensus, then we'll take a vote. But we're probably not going to do that tonight. We still have business to conduct. We have another whole 2 hours of business that's going to be continuing. So, right, Thane, I'm going to
like to, Linda, ask that I hope that it becomes, rather than just each person speaking, that we do sort of have an organic discussion.
I think
back
that's a
and
good
forth.
idea. And I'm just going to ask Thane to kind of start it off, and then each person can jump in as
I'll
they feel the
interrupt
need.
him to keep it organic.
Very good.
I'm used to that. So if you've been watching the last few meetings or reading the paper, you'll know that I've been committed to keeping all of the schools open, including Summit. You've said a lot of wonderful things here tonight and have not changed my mind about that. I still think keeping Summit open is the right thing to do. I would like to say that those who made comments questioning motives of those who have come to a different conclusion, I think that's totally unfair. I think that my colleagues here on the board who have considered more towards closing a campus have done so for the benefit of the students, for the benefit of the teachers, for the benefit of the community. And even though I don't necessarily agree with that, I think that their motives and intentions have been absolutely from the heart. But I agree that there may be some savings in closing campuses. We've talked about that over time. But all in all, when you weigh things out, I think that there's a top limit to the amount of savings we could have, but there's a potential for a loss as well. And without having a certainty going into that, you can see all the non-financial reasons tonight for keeping Summit open. This has been a wonderful learning experience for me. I have known good things about Summit for years, but this was really upper level course in Summit. And I've just been so impressed with the eloquence of the students, with the parents, with the community, and I really appreciate all of your thoughts tonight. That's all I have to say.
Sure, I would just like to join in with Thane on thanking people for sharing your experience. Obviously, when you talk about an issue like this, there's bitterness, there's anger, there's emotional involvement. And so I really appreciate, Teresa, you were so eloquent and elegant. Just in helping us see, without accusations, without anger, certain issues. And I'm sure the rest of the board experiences the same as I, that when we're out in the community, when we're at Vaughn's or when we're walking through downtown, that we have a lot of people who share information with us that maybe aren't willing to come here and speak, maybe who aren't able to come here and speak. So there is a lot of information that comes to us that I feel is important to share. And I want to share it in the sense that I want you to understand what we hear. And it is not a reflection of how I'm feeling or how I'm voting. But last week we had someone comment about the Measure J funds. This is just an example. And how people in Summit voted for Measure J with the assumption that the money would help the school district. And that if Summit was closed, it would be hard in the future for the district to pass perhaps a parcel tax. I want those people to know I have also heard people say to me, well, if you don't close a school, which 7 out of the 7-11 committees first voted, you should close a school, then I'm gonna think, why should I pass the parcel tax? Because the school can't figure out how to spend their money anyway. So there are different sides to the argument. And our job is to hear all those things, to go through what the 7-11 committee was amazing to go through, and to discuss it with input from the community. So that's what we're here to do tonight. There's no hidden agenda. There's no, we're not listening to this side or that side. We have to weigh a lot of information. And I would personally just want to comment, I think last week I said something about concerned about the academics at Summit. And so I heard comments tonight about, you know, our teachers are great, our students are smart, we're very successful. So I want to make a correction in my thoughts from last week. The reason I was asking about a combination class with 4 grades in it is obviously I know a lot about what's going on in the 4th grade. They're studying electricity and science, they're studying watershed, they're reading Island of the Blue Dolphins, they're learning about California, they're learning, lots of the things. 5th grade, they're gonna be learning about the US states. They're gonna be learning, I think they're reading, in the 6th grade, they're reading Hatchet, and they're learning about Egypt, right? So there's lots of different things, and my question is, how does that happen in that classroom? Now, perhaps at Summit, you're not reading Island of the Blue Dolphins. And to me, I don't know that that's important. But I want to say, well, so if they get opportunities there and make choices, why are we as a board making choices? Why are we choosing curriculum when it might be better to do what Summit's doing? Right? So my question is not, is Summit better or worse? Are they missing something? Are we getting something? But to gather information and say, what's happening up there, and is there a way to implement it elsewhere? Or is what we're doing elsewhere, is there a way we can implement it at Summit? So a lot of my questions are questions for information. They're not, please understand, it's not accusing, or it's not, I'm not feeling drawn to any decision based on those answers, but I like to get all the answers together. And Thane, I have found myself over the last week doing exactly what you talked about last week, which is arguing with myself. So in the morning I feel one way, in the afternoon I feel the other way, and whatever decision I feel, I argue the other side to myself. So it's a very, very difficult decision, and I appreciate that you all came out to help us sort of remember the special things about your community and your school.
Well, so maybe some context I think might be helpful. To begin with, I'd like to say it is fabulous to have so many people showing up at a meeting, and I want to make something absolutely clear. You know, it's somewhat unfortunate that we're sitting up here high up, because the truth is we work for you. We work for you. You run our schools. You pay for our schools. Your kids pay for our schools. When you choose to send your kids to the Ohio Unified School District, you make this all possible. This only exists because parents chose to send their kids to Ohio Unified School District for the last however many years. So we work for you. When you come to us, if you're mad at us, if you think we're doing something wrong, you have every right to tell us that. I agree. I think it's very unfair to accuse us of bad motives because frankly, you know, this has been a long process, and we got here for reasons, and you know, you can watch them on tape and see how we got here. But at bottom, you know, we're part of this community, and we, like you, hopefully all just have one thing as our primary interest, and that is making sure that the Ojai School District is as strong as it can be. Now, does that mean that you're not going to, first and foremost, think about your experience at Summit? Of course not. So your experience at Summit is your experience with the Ojai Unified School District. And I got to say, I have been blown away by the commitment we've seen and the experiences and the stories you've all told tonight. It's super moving to me. And I also think, and this is on a broader issue, I think Ojai is a unique place. I am still one of those Pollyannas that think Ojai is special. So, you know, I think the fact that we have this school up on a hill, a rural school called Summit, Summit doing what it's doing, I think it's special. I don't take it for granted. I don't think it's something that occurs everywhere. I mean, for me, I feel like we've come this far. I feel like I should talk a little bit more about the unfortunate conditions that brought us here and that will probably continue to bring us to things like this. And it bothers me when I hear stories about people who say, you know, I would keep going to the school district, but because of this uncertainty, I'm out of here. I love the fact that over and over again, Summit has survived near, death experiences and is still going. But you might have to show up again. And I'm not voting right now, but I've made it clear my thoughts are that we shouldn't close a school. I don't think we're there yet. When I say there yet, I mean, for me, the driver would be finance. That's the only reason I would close a school in Ojai. You go to the different schools in Ojai, you see fabulous communities of committed families just like you, maybe not as intensely family as you because of your isolation, but great schools, great commitment. I think it's worthwhile keeping them all open. But will there come a day if we keep having a demographic in Ojai that's 55 and older moving here and families are priced out of Ojai? Will there be a day when we have a 2,000 person school district or a 1,700 person school district? Will we have to close a school? We will. We will have to close a school. And hopefully we will be able to do it as a community, and hopefully we'll be able to do it without throwing aspersions at each other or accusing people of bad faith, but make the best choice, whichever that would be, and that will be very, 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 very hard. But for today and now, I just don't see the financial benefit. And in fact, and I said this from the beginning, the school administration has been great. They have provided us, and we've been, by the way, working around the clock, all of us, on these issues for many weeks. And they've provided us with pretty much every sliced and diced piece of information we've asked for. And I think one of them is how do we figure out what would happen? I said in a couple meetings ago that it's like a chess game. You make a move, what happens next? You've said you have a petition saying many of us would leave your district, many of us would try to start a charter. I have no doubt that there would be repercussions. And that's the case among all 5 of our elementary schools. And frankly, it's enough of a reality that it makes it very difficult to even have any confidence that you would save a nickel closing any school. So these are the realities that we have to consider, though. And there are examples that we got through the process of gathering information of school districts that closed schools, and they literally said, man, we wish we hadn't done that because it didn't work out the way we thought it would, particularly because they ended up with charter schools. So I appreciate you guys showing up here. I will tell you one thing, though, that is a reality we all have to face, which is there are some in our community who are the drivers. They make things happen. They get involved in our schools. I think it's great that you have 15 people at a meeting at a PTA today. My wife's very involved in PTA. Their last meeting, they had 3 people plus their board show up. So, that is the reality, though, when the clouds pass and the intensity is over, and then we're back at it again. So I hope that all of you, those of you who've been sitting here willing to listen to all this, will stay engaged and try to become a driver of something. I've heard some great stories about some ideas for how to teach that I think are fabulous. Ideas for how we could add programs, do different things, think differently, as Apple would say, or think different, as they would say. So let's stay at it.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a little bit of what's already been said. For me, this has never been about quality. I don't think it's ever been about quality for anybody, but for me, this was basically a due diligence exercise to make sure that the bond money that you have entrusted to this board to spend was spent properly and appropriately. You know, you come from, I mean, you start that conversation with an understanding that there isn't enough money for anything, and that there won't be enough money for anything. It's not going to change if we close Summit. It's not going to change appreciably, and for me, this has been a decision of it's something that it must be done. If it doesn't, oh boy, how am I going to say that? If it doesn't must be done, oh, I can't say that in front of teachers. If it doesn't have to be done, then it shouldn't be done. So I was never looking for a bad school to close. What I was hoping to see was whether or not there was some recovery that would be significant enough to warrant the disruption and the displacement that this clearly would cause, no matter what school we were talking about. And over the weeks, I've not seen it. The best estimates from Hank and Andy have been, you know, they've been churning those numbers endlessly. And those are best guesstimates and potentially, in terms of savings, a little bit high. And so when you kind of squint for reality's sake, the benefit of closing Summit is I think, illusory. Would I have closed more schools? That's a different conversation. It's not in front of us tonight. And I don't think so, because I'm not seeing the benefit. I will say, and I said it at the last meeting, I'll say it again, I understand that it's very heart-wrenching for folks to not have stability, but I think it is important that as adults we all face the reality, and we are in a district that does not have fiscal stability in the future. It is going to take everybody at the wheel to make sure that we sustain. And that's the important thing, is the sustainability. You know, when I made previous comments about where were you, and I love the new activities, it's not to criticize or to diminish the activities that have gone before, but in point of fact, we are going to have to do things differently moving forward because we're moving into a different world financially, and a different world academically. So I continue to say that, is that I am impressed by the energy that I've seen from Summit, from Miners Oaks, not so visibly from some of the other schools who didn't perceive themselves as threatened, but I am confident that, you know, if we were to put them on the list, we would hear about a bunch of wonderful things there as well, because I think all of our schools are doing really good things. You know, I look at Summit in particular, and there's a geographic component. Summit is way out there, and if there was no Summit, there'd be a big blank spot on the map. And I'm sensitive to the access issues, because getting kids to school really is the first step to getting them to graduate. So where we sit today, I am not in favor of closing Summit. I don't think there's a fiscal necessity. I don't think it's gonna, the closure of Summit is going to magically put significant raises in faculty's pocket. I only wish it were that easy to find faculty money not to close a school. But there are no magic bullets no matter what the problem is. It just means that we're all going to have to work a little harder in that area as well. So that's kind of where I am at this point.
Can I just add one thing, since this will be the most organic part of this? Something Mike just said made me want to read something, because there was a 7-Eleven. The 7-Eleven committee is the committee that's formed, that's the precursor to a board talking about potentially closing a school, and we've already had that. And as you know, that 7-Eleven committee actually also suggested or recommended we not close any school, but did talk about potentially moving our district offices off the property in the center of town out to other locations and using that property for other purposes. Anyway, there was another 7-Eleven committee, and by the way, on that last point, you know, that's an ongoing conversation as well, but that won't, at this point, certainly involve any closing of a school. This is a quote from one of those 7-Eleven reports on a rural school, and in which they were not recommending be closed. And what they said was, and I could have stolen it, and you probably wouldn't have found me out, but I'll give it credit. It's from Plumas again, of all things. I keep reading from Plumas. Rural schools play an important role in communities. serving children and families as well as providing public space, offering programs, hosting events, building social connections, and providing the heart for many aspects of community life. Schools are very important in developing community connections and pride in the endeavors of community members. A school in a rural area is a place where generations come together and where community identity is built. And man, we heard that from you guys tonight.
Michael, I wanted to agree with you. When I looked at things over this week, the big things that stood out for me was the geographic location of Summit. And I talked to Andy about bus schedules, and I just did not like the idea of elementary school children having to get on a bus at 6:50 in the morning in order to get to a school by 7:44. That really concerned me. I know that the junior high and high school kids do it, and I don't like that either, but it's more impactful, I think, at the elementary level. And then I was hoping that the fiscal impact would be apparent and easy, and it was not. So when you have that, then it's much, I don't know if you'd say it's easier or it's harder, but everything is weighing equally. And you would hope that to make a big decision like this, the weight would be heavy in a direction to find that need. Or this is heavily supportive, and financially this district needs it. And we are not finding that. The scales are balanced, and in my mind, that's not worth closing a school either. It's just not, we have not found that it solves our problems. Linda, I know you haven't talked, if you would like to, or if you would like to have a motion. I don't know how you would like to.
Well, just to clarify, the only vote we might take tonight would be not to close a school, or any schools. The discussion about closing schools obviously has come about because of our really dire financial issues and the declining enrollment in our district. Summit is, when I started teaching at Nordhoff in 1985, Summit had 120 students, if you can believe that. I mean, some of you guys remember that. Some of you were students of mine, and we talked about that at open house. I did go to Summit open house, and I was thinking, wow, my granddaughter would love it here. This is a perfect place, going into Mrs. Eck's class and seeing what a really terrific job she's doing there, and also Mrs. Usher's class. It's just incredible what's going on at Summit. And I also think about the teachers and how can we provide them with a living wage so that they can afford to maybe buy a house in Ojai so they don't have to live in Fillmore or someplace that's less, where the real estate is less expensive. So not that Fillmore is a bad place, it's a beautiful place, but it's a long drive. So all of these things are really difficult for us, and we have the responsibility of making sure that our 7-Eleven committee, our advisory committee, has looked at all of these things also and has made suggestions that we have to then make decisions about. So I know that any decisions that we make, we really don't know the outcome. We don't know what's going to really happen when we make a decision. Your children hopefully will be happy no matter where they go because they are your kids, and you're going to make sure that they're happy. And so I would think now that we probably could get someone to make a motion. I think we're probably at that point. We've had that discussion over and over and over again, and I think if someone wants to make a motion.
I'll move.
Just 1 second, okay? Just
Okay.
so we know what we're moving. So the motion that's available to you tonight is to vote, as I articulated earlier, to vote not to close the school, and that if that vote is at least 3-2 or 4-1 or 5-0, then that you could then have that statement be the basis for a public hearing in this auditorium a week from tomorrow night. I will say that legally you don't have to have a public hearing because there's no change in the district. But we said from the beginning, under the area of transparency, that through the Ojai Valley News and other sources, if people wanted to come a week from tomorrow night and speak to the motion and the action you took tonight, it would give them the opportunity to do so. You can't be more transparent than that. I mean, some of the people who are here tonight, I'm sure would come back a week from tomorrow night and say, great job, good call, good vote, okay? Others might come and say, you know, I hear what you're saying, all of you are saying, but there, you should have closed the school somehow, some way. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a very long meeting, okay? But it would have on the agenda the opportunity, and I would argue now the probability of a formal statement from the board that would end the process, right? That gives you the opportunity to end the process, to vote, if you're moving in the direction I hear you moving, to not close the school at the end of this long study and not have to wait until October 17th to do it.
So I will move that we vote on the question as to whether to keep all schools open.
So you're proposing that we keep all schools open? That's
In my lawyerly way, that's what I'm doing. Making it very hard to follow and confusing, as I was taught.
As an artist, I like to be direct. So.
I will second the motion.
All in favor of keeping all schools open, please say aye.
Aye.
And I'm going to vote nay. So it carries.
So I think the only issue then remaining, right, is what you'd like to do, if anything. We have to do something after tonight so that we move from this tentative vote that you've taken, albeit it's a clear, talk about an oxymoron, a clear tentative vote, right? So you clearly have said that you want the schools open. That's the formal position of the board, 4-1. And the only thing that would happen at some point in time would be to have a different agenda item, right? That would just simply say, we are now formalizing that decision, moving it from tentative to final. And it could be as soon as a week from tomorrow night. With or without a public hearing, but you might as well have one, because you're going to have to come together anyway to formalize the vote and give people an opportunity to come and speak on it. So now I'm moving from sort of the counselor role to a recommending role, and that is the board also approve, and you can do this under number 4 on the agenda, the fourth point, that the board approve the scheduling of the special meeting, 5:30 p.m. here, September 28th, with the dual purpose. Actually, there's one little agenda item we got to throw in that's a technical one that has nothing to do with this. But the purpose of the evening would be to open a public hearing, to give people an opportunity to respond to tonight's vote, and then on that agenda would be the vote to keep all schools open as the formal statement from the board at the end of this process. I think you should vote to schedule that special meeting, public hearing for that purpose.
So do we have a motion to schedule a public hearing?
I will move to schedule the public hearing on the 28th and all of the other items mentioned there.
And everything else is said.
Yeah,
We have a second. I'll second. All in favor? Aye. None opposed. Thank all of you for your wonderful comments, your heartfelt discussion, your kindness and loving attention towards each other. We do really appreciate everything that you do, and congratulations. Summit School will stay open. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to real fun stuff. So now item 7.1.1, variable term waiver for employment of education specialist moderate, severe. And actually I'd like to take 7.1, 7.1.2, and 7.1.3 all together. These are actually all the same, basically the same thing.
Yes, they are.
So
Yes, they are.
do I have a motion to approve all three?
I just had a question, Hank. What is the significance of this with respect to the math teacher?
You know, Kevin, I sort of made the same speech each time these come forward, and these all come out of Jody Heath's office. She's the maestro, right, of these special cases. In no case have I seen anything that relates, in my opinion, to the quality of preparation to teach the subject. They're all technical tests that the state of California requires be passed. Sometimes it's a timing thing. Sometimes it's an out-of-state certification that takes a while to get through. So I guess my bottom line is no impact.
Well, so in this case, it's a provisional intern permit.
Right.
Now, is that, I mean, I'm used to seeing, I guess we see all sorts of kind of waivers
There are all kinds of
issue.
acronyms depending on the background that person brings to the issue of getting fully certified. But in this case, you know, we're talking about an important role, but yet not a full-time position. It's an hourly elementary math person at San Antonio.
But I guess when someone is listed as an intern as opposed to some iterative position where they're working towards some next credential, does that mean that this person's just not in that credential world at all, but just someone who knows math who we're going to hire?
Yeah, well, in this case, as you later on in the paragraph, it's a person who is scheduled to take the test, but not until February 2017.
Okay.
It's a timing thing.
So do we have,
internship is the weird word.
I know yes, it is weird.
so we have a motion and a second?
I'll move to approve all interim.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, none opposed. Moving on to 7.3.1, recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month. This is an action item. And what a fabulous experience we had tonight with the Aztec dancers. I was just so thrilled to see them. They just did a wonderful job. And
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? All right, now we're 7.4.1, resolution, recognition and support of Proposition 55. This is the California Children's Education and Healthcare Protection Act of 2016. Do you want to speak to that?
I think I'd let Andy do that.
Okay.
So Proposition 55 is the extension of the increased income tax portion from Proposition 30, which passed in 2012. Just a reminder, the income tax which increased the brackets for a single earner above $250,000 or a married couple filing jointly to $500,000. Income tax brackets above that range have a small increase in their income tax. It ends up impacting 1% of the California population. However, it brings in nearly $10 billion of revenue to the general fund, education receiving about half of that amount. So the proposal on the ballot in November for Prop 55 is the extension of that income tax bracket, maintaining what the current brackets are. Currently, it's due to sunset in 2018. This would extend it to 2030. What we have just received an estimate from School Services of California is that this could result in approximately a $1.4 million increase to LCFF funding during that time period. So it's certainly something that we're supporting. I do not believe there's a single public education entity in California that's not actively supporting this, and so our proposal is for the board to join the many other statewide and local education agencies supporting this proposition.
I would like to say something about this. Years ago, the state instituted the lottery. They gave money to schools and they took more money away from schools, I think, than they gave. And then Governor Schwarzenegger had a bond issue that was supposed to be billions of dollars for the schools. I don't know that we saw very much of that at all. I was very skeptical of this sales tax proposition when it came up a few years ago. And while I didn't vote no to support it, I did abstain. I remember too. Because I was very skeptical of the state ever giving us money. Because I've seen it not happen so many times. In this case, we actually got money. I was thrilled to be wrong. And so, I wholeheartedly support the continuation of that policy and this proposition. I think it's important for our district, and that's what I care about.
Would you like to make a motion?
Sure. I'll move to approve.
I would like to
Our,
add that it's helpful because I know, the ads seem to always be twisted and you don't really know who's really behind that or what does it really mean. But when you have a local, when this is your school district and they support something, then it's much easier to understand where it's coming from. So I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. All right. 7.4.2, Mr. Cantwell has a presentation for us on Measure J.
So for 7.4.2, we have 7 pages of materials in your packet today. This is an overview of what was accomplished during the summer 2016. Just a reminder of where we were coming from. We were focusing on one path of the gymnasium roofs at Matilaha and Nordhoff, as well as the roofs at the Nordhoff Library. In about April or so, we decided to pause on those projects to really make sure that we were doing proper due diligence and gaining comfort over the budget projections. And so what we really focused on this past summer was on those quick start projects, a way that we could address known needs identified in both needs assessments and other places like our facility assessment tool that we use that you recently approved or reviewed the FIT form for Myers Oaks. Reviewing each of those different ways in which we evaluate facilities and focusing on those quick start projects available to us for this summer. I'm happy to report that of the $430,000 expended on projects in 2016, about $375,000 was actually the hard costs associated with the projects. About $50,000 was Balfour Beatty's portion. Of the $375,000, we had 41% go toward contractors based in the Ojai Valley. We've certainly heard public sentiment that we desire to keep these dollars local when possible. So 41% went to Ojai contractors, and a total of 75% went to Ventura County-based contractors. Of course, we are still trying to be good stewards of these dollars and focusing on the lowest responsible bid, but we also are excited when we're able to have that money stay local. Again, we have 6 pages of materials, including an itemized breakdown of the cost of each individual project, so I won't go into greater detail since you have the materials in front of you, but we'll answer any questions regarding the projects that we completed this past summer.
Just a quick question. I'm not sure I'm reading this correctly. Is there a number that was like the project estimate, and is that different than the total project cost? I'm just wondering if there was a differential, and if we could see that up, down, and to what degree?
So the good news is we were able to actually develop a really good budget on the front end because we were doing it in conjunction with building out these scopes and receiving the bids and the quotes, and so we remained within budget on each of these projects.
Andy, the amount allocated to construction management, as you said, was $53,865.
Correct.
But we also have additional expenses we paid to the construction manager, I presume not allocated to these particular projects. Is that right? I don't see it here, but I was just wondering if this seems like information that's specific to the projects, not other services.
So yes, there have been, and actually going even back to the roofing project, right? So, but we've reported that before, but in the planning stage of projects beyond the summer of 2016, if we were to go back and tally all of the costs associated with the management company, it would exceed this $54,000, some of which you've already seen, right? You remember there was a $25,000 item which is outside of this. That, as I recall, attached mostly to the roofing
Correct.
work, right? Okay. So, and you're going to hear a lot as soon as when we're going to have to leave the stage to do it, right? 'Cause you're going to have a little video here, but you're going to hear a lot about the really fortuitous conjunction of the construction management firm we chose and what now is emerging as a pretty exciting concept of replacing, in fact, tearing out and replacing some elementary classrooms, i.e. portables, and even some other places. So, Kevin, we can put together, if you're interested, actually we'll do it, just an ongoing tally of the costs associated with construction management, exactly what the project was for, but in this particular case, this 54,000 out of 430 was attached specifically to the projects this summer. Okay? Okay.
Correct. So the roofing project would be, and the cost associated with pursuing that in the spring was not included in this information. However, there were some projects that we brought to you back in June that we're going to be focused on during the summer that for a number of reasons we were not able to complete. Either the scope began to expand. For instance, if you look at page 7 of 7 in this agenda item, you'll see a couple items like the Topa Topa domestic water improvement. You'll see that the sole expense associated with that item was Balfour Beatty's cost. In us pursuing doing the line improvement, as we knew that there was a leak that was nearly the front of the school building, as we began investigating that further, we realized that actually it was a much more significant issue requiring a larger infrastructure improvement, which you'll see actually in our next agenda item is still on the list for projects to be completed in summer 2017. But so there are a few projects here that do include, even though we did not complete the work on the project, does include the cost of Balfour Beatty's work to pursue completing that project.
You'll remember during the time we talked to Balfour Beatty about their providing this construction management services, I think I used the term keeping them on a short leash. I would just say, I note here, and you happen to land on the page that I was looking at, 7 of 7, we did a tenting and extermination at San Antonio that cost us $3,775, and we paid Balfour Beatty almost $1,500 for whatever services they provided in that conjunction. That seems like quite a lot in comparison to the actual work. Similarly, for the grease interceptor up at Miners Oaks, we had a total actual work performed of $8,500-ish, and we paid almost half that for construction management. So, I just am going to stay on this because I really want us to utilize this Measure J money in the most efficient possible way. And I just wonder if you really need a construction manager to, be your eyes and ears when you've just hired Ojai Termite to do what every homeowner does when they sell a house.
Hear, hear.
I absolutely hear that's the sentiment from many members or all members of the board, as well as it certainly is a priority for Dr. Bangser and I, which is actually a great prelude to one of the items that we have in the next agenda item of us actually pursuing some internal assistance.
I was very excited about that.
Unfortunately, given the condition of the district and our staffing level this summer, it was required for us to have the expertise that Balfour Beatty brought in helping us build out our, if you recall that term of, and I apologize to interpreter, I'm about to use the acronym, our CUPCA, or the California Uniform, oh boy, I'm actually going to, it's the public contracting code that allows us to actually have higher bid limits and allows us to have a preferred list of contractors that we can go out and use for some of these smaller projects, to get the approved vendors on the CUPCA list, as well as to make sure that we went out and did not just simply use Ojai Termite, but received multiple bids from, again, qualifying agency or contractors. They really were a help given our staffing situation for this summer. But I absolutely agree with you that some of these projects would have been ones that could have been better supervised by an Ojai Unified staff person. That's point 2. So let's move on to point 3. And I think that I'm working on a broader PowerPoint that will be available and I will present to you in October. But I do want to help give context and a few more pictures to one of the items that I'm going to be presenting to you tonight as a recommendation that we begin further due diligence on. Thank you. Further pursuing. So, David, do we have the... if you guys want to have a seat down there, that'd be great. Yeah, that'll help you see the projector a little more and might help those in the audience. So I think a number of the items on the priority list that you see on page 2 of 7 are ones that have been discussed extensively in either prior board meetings or other Measure J subcommittee meetings. The one item that is a new one is the one that we're about to show a few pictures and videos on. Before we'll start off showing the pictures and video, and then we will come back to the rationale of why I really believe so strongly that this is a path that we should be pursuing. Forgive me as I try to get hooked up. projector going? Yeah. There we go. Got it? Yeah. When I was going into my eyes.
You want me to get the stage lights, Dave, back there?
All right. Thank you, David. Thank you. So the first item on the, again, page 2 of the prioritization list is stealing actually an idea that was first implemented at Oak Park High School 2 years ago. They were the first school district in the state and one of the first in the nation to implement these cargo container classrooms. I know that, again, when I first heard the concept, it was one that I was skeptical on. A cargo container would not be the first thing I'd think to want to have my child go into for a classroom. But I think that, again, when we start seeing these pictures, you'll see that there's something beautiful about the buildings, as well as once I start talking about some of the energy efficiencies, the cost component, the lifetime of the units themselves, that will be pretty exciting. So you can see this is what Oak Park put in. Since Oak Park did this 2 years ago, a number of other school districts have been either pursuing this or have actually installed these. William S. Hart in the Santa Clara Valley is currently working on a 2-story double-digit classroom configuration. El Camino Real down the valley is also pursuing this. So Oak Park was the leader on this, working with Balfour Beatty as their construction management firm. Growth Point was is the actual producer of these modular units, or prefabricated units. You can see that they have floor-to-ceiling windows on one side of the building. They actually put in a reflective glass that allows the natural landscape of the mountainside behind the school to reflect off, and it really creates a beautiful picture. I did tour the campus yesterday, was able to actually walk into these buildings and see just how impressive they are. So a few highlights of these buildings. It's actually a net zero building at Oak Park. They have solar on the roofs, and so not only is it net zero energy being pulled, or electricity pulled from the grid, but it is feeding in and is able to help provide energy to other buildings within the campus. I think an exciting portion also, we're looking at, it saves 115 tons of landfill waste through the use of 85% of reclaimed material. What they use is single-use containers. So storage containers that typically are coming from Asia, that it actually is more costly for the importer to bring the shipping container back to Asia. They'd rather either surplus them out or discard them and leave them at one of the ports in California. And so this company is able to take those containers that are only a few months old, that have been used once, repurpose them for this opportunity. These classrooms feature full LED lighting, so these are light bulbs that not only have a lower energy requirement, but also will last for 10 years. So they're really excited about, and they've seen already the benefit on the custodial and maintenance team being able to delay, the attention that these otherwise need. Ductless HVAC systems, floor-to-ceiling windows, and roof-mounted solar panels all, again, help bring in that kind of green 21st century technology classroom that has allowed it to be far more energy efficient. They have infrared technology that actually is able to sense the body temperature in the room and able to adjust the thermostats accordingly. And you'll see that it's funny, in the Ventura County Star article featuring these classrooms and interviewing a teacher, she was mentioning how she just hopes if the earthquake ever comes, that she's in these rooms, because they are actually 100 times stronger than California buildings code requires. And lastly, and what I think is really important, is even though these are prefabricated and they're referred to as a modular unit, the expected usable life exceeds 100 years, which really is as long, if not longer, than our brick and mortar that we had put in 70 years ago. So these are not the same as the modular units that you currently see on the campuses that only have a 20 to 30 year usable life. These really are intended to be as strong and last as long as permanent structures. So I want to see if this will work. Again, this is the video that Oak Park took. It's a elapsed time video that comes from the Growth Point website that shows start to finish the installation of these units over a single summer. So another one of the highlights of these buildings are that you have the ability to begin them once school is out and have them fully installed, and in their case with full landscaping and many other improvements complete before school returns. It's about a 1.5 minute long video. That's my children. Oh, now I'm just clicking on things. Where did it go?
That's the construction management team I was
I can get to it from here. Let's see. That's right. There we go. So again, you can see, these are, I believe, aesthetically more pleasing than certainly the typical modular units that you see, again, on many school campuses across the state. It does not appear that sound is linked in, but sound isn't necessary. So you can see the removal of the portables began on June 20th. They had to do significant work on their grading and actually leveling of the space. I do not believe that we're going to have actually that same level of work required on our end. You can see that these were all brought in within 36 hours. Every single one of these containers were installed. Their model is a 960 square foot classroom, which is what DSA recommends. That ends up being 3 cargo containers joined together. However, they actually have the ability to do any configuration you desire. As I already mentioned, there's 2-story configurations. You can have the width of one go, so it's twice as long or twice as wide, I should say. You can add in additional containers to each of the classrooms to make it a 1280 square foot or further larger room. Floor-to-ceiling windows again, full smartboard and integrated technology that allows for the 30 Chromebooks that we have in classrooms to really function at their optimum level. And again, you can see the solar that they chose to bring in on the roofs as well.
So the solar's not built in as part of
Solar is not a requirement. You can have these installed without solar. You can see again pretty.
Is that the actual Oak Park installation?
Yeah, that was Oak Park High School. So as much as I love to keep looking at the kids, I'll try to unplug this. So that's the video I want to share. Again, next month I'm going to have a far more robust PowerPoint showing some of the sites that I think are best candidates for this program. Although I think there's many things that are exciting about installing these classrooms, I would not be recommending this if it was going to be significantly more expensive than being able to repair the current structures we have. Working with a Growth Point consultant, as well as working with Balfour Beatty, and then also doing our own preliminary review of the needs at a few of our sites, we believe it will actually be more cost effective to level permanent structures in some cases. And you see on my list where I recommend Nordhoff Library, I actually think is a great candidate for this, of eliminating that permanent structure, coming back in with this installation will be more cost effective than once you start getting into a roof replacement, the significant amount of hazardous material abatement and remediation that would be required, and the HVAC and other known needs that we have on some of those properties. So while there's many exciting things about the sustainability side of it, about the green side, about, again, what I believe to be aesthetically pleasing buildings, what I get most excited about is that we really believe this could be actually more cost effective and really help give the greatest bang for our buck on Measure J dollars than the alternative or other options. So what I am going to begin starting tomorrow, assuming that, what's that? No, you're welcome to come back up.
You were just going to try to take over.
I was enjoying this right now.
You're Alexander Haig. I'm in charge.
So returning to the actual prioritization list, page 2 of 7 of this agenda item, I really believe that the locations that we should begin with a focus on would be at Miners Oaks. I actually believe that, again, it would be more cost effective. I think it'd be a great point of pride for the campus. I've spoken to Ms. Damianos. She's in support as well, that we would look at the replacement of a permanent wing. This would not be to backfill the portables that we know are in poor condition. That's listed as item number 2. That we would be removing those 4 portables that have been discussed by the 7-Eleven committee and by the board as well. But we would not be looking at bringing those classrooms back online. We'd be reducing the overall number of classrooms at Myers Oaks from 27 to 23. And then of the permanent structure, 1 wing would be replaced with this exciting opportunity. Nordhoff Library, as I mentioned, I think is another really strong candidate or location where we will see the numbers pencil out. That'll be more cost effective to pursue this. And then the Topa Topa portables, the wings, actually Angie, you might be able to help. It's 20 and 21. Does it start 17? Does it go 17 and 21? No. It's the 5.
It's 20, 22, 24.
There we go. 20 through 24. Yeah, I knew 20 and 21 are the ones that are in the worst condition of those portables. So that would be the elementary school where I would recommend that we would, again, replace the portables that we know to be in the poorest condition back online by replacing them with these structures. So what we're going to be spending the next month doing is going out and doing a far more robust hazardous material assessment to make sure we know the full cost of what potential remediation would be if we were going to keep these buildings online and try to continue to put the Band-Aid repairs or the more robust repairs on these buildings. We'll do that hazardous material assessment. Then we'll begin actually building out a scope of what this project will cost compared to what the alternative option would be to try to rehab the current facilities. So that way you as a board are able to make a fully educated decision beyond just our initial preliminary belief that this will, again, be more cost effective.
Andy, hopefully interesting side note is that Miners Oaks was designed by I think relatively famous or at least notable architect named Maynard Linden, I think. So I do think it would be worth having somebody with some architectural knowledge, weigh in on whether this is a historically significant school or building, because I know it's listed. Someone pointed it out to me. I think Dave Intner pointed it out to me that it's actually listed in an architectural magazine as a classic example of a particular style of an architect named Maynard Linden. So if it's a close call, there might be some value in maintaining the permanent structures.
I think Marty Babeko has some information about that, because I know when he was still principal, I believe he was telling me about the history of the school. So that would be that's a good point.
Absolutely. I will continue to research that. I have heard some of that similar information, and we will formalize that and bring it to you so that way that is part of our discussion as well.
Could you also include in that analysis just closing those wings?
I thought you were going to say school, and then I was going to strangle you.
Susie had a little hard.
I think we need to restart this conversation. No, but just closing those classrooms and closing those buildings that we're talking about replacing, and see if we could fit everybody into the remaining buildings.
Absolutely.
Can I ask one question about the portables? So those big, beautiful windows, how does that affect, did you see when you were in there, the projecting,
So they actually have a mechanical blind that's able to be moved up and down. It still allows light in without the glare. It does obstruct a little bit of the view from the inside looking out, but they are able to limit the glare. Also, the direction it's facing and the small overhang that I don't know if you saw, but there's an overhang on both sides of the building, even though there's no walking path on the window-facing side of those walls. That overhang is to help provide an additional level of shade to try to prevent glare that can come from direct sunlight coming in.
And after I commented about not doing it at all, I was thinking how much nicer that would look than the current Nordhoff Library. in that space particularly.
And I think Nordoff Library would be a great candidate potentially again for those same reflective windows, which there are all kinds of options. As I was saying earlier, as far as configuration, as far as whether or not you want to have sliding glass doors as opposed to simply the stationary window to try to integrate indoor-outdoor space, all sorts of different opportunities to utilize this building material. But I think that Nordoff Library, especially again, given the same sort of natural beauty of the surrounding mountains and the reflection that they're able to capture there, I think we could also have a real point of pride for the campus right there. I did speak with my counterpart at Oak Park on Friday. He shared that he's surveyed the teachers, that they've been overwhelmingly uniformly excited and supportive of these classrooms. One initial issue was that they were slightly, the HVAC units on the roof had a slight higher noise level than the units that they had previously. That's actually been taken care of. They replaced the ventilation system, and so that's no longer an issue. All future development that Growth Point does is using that new ventilation system, and so now that that's been taken care of for the past year, they said the teachers absolutely love the classrooms. They are going out for another bond, that the primary purpose of that bond is going to be to install more of these classrooms across their entire district. He said, and Dr. Knight, the superintendent at Oak Park, both have said that if they were to construct a school from scratch in 2016, they would do it exclusively using this building material and doing it as the cargo container classrooms.
Can you talk a little bit about, or maybe not tonight, but in the future, about the size of the classrooms? Because I've noticed as I've gone to different campuses that some classrooms feel really big and some feel kind of tight. And I attributed it first to, there's more desks, but I've started to count the desks, and that's not the case. So what would we choose, and how would we?
Right. The standard DSA room is 960 feet, or that meets their recommendation. These units are 8 feet wide by 40 feet long. So when you stack 3 of those together, that's what gets you to 960 feet. 8'10" tall, so that's the height. Hank will not be bumping his head on the roof. 8 foot by 40 foot. You have the ability to actually, as I said, to add a 4th container per classroom, which expands it to a 1280 footprint, 1,280 square foot. So you have a number of different configurations if we were wanting to go to a larger space to help with, additional, space for group work, and if we were going to look at a reconfiguration of the way in which we fill the classroom. So certainly that would be all part of the discussion and decision-making process over the coming months.
I'll just throw one thing back on the table now that we're getting really close to finishing the elementary school issue. So, back several weeks ago, I recommended, and thank you for following this path, of taking the 6th grade issue off, right? So I have, 9 months to go or so. I'm not going to let you forget, and I know you won't forget, about all the work that we did on that. I do want to put it back on the table for the board to talk about, not to act. I'm not recommending action, but I want the board pre-election, post-election, probably post-election, there's not much time before then, but this school year to talk about that. And the reason I'm raising it now is not just to talk about it, but a lot of times school use is clearly in the eye of the beholder, and the beholder in this case is the principal. So when I talked to Bill Rosen about it 2 years ago, he had a certain view of space at Matilaha. Javier, working with Carol, they have a little different view, and their view is that we would actually, in order to make 6th grade well received and have a really exciting space for those kids, whether it's an art rooms or whatever it might be, some expanded opportunities, that we probably would be bringing to campus some additional space, right? This is a great opportunity. It absolutely could answer any question about available classroom space. Now, there are other questions, as I keep reminding, there are other questions, many of which are financial, okay? But aside from the financial, this could be a great answer to additional space and exciting space.
Thank you, Andy. Any other comments for Andy or questions?
Only just that I actually looked these up while I was running because it had been brought to my attention, and I really appreciate that this is on the docket. I think this is a real smart way to go.
I thought you meant while you were out jogging.
Oh, running for the board. Oh, you mean in 2014, 2 years ago? Okay. Now that.
Yes, yeah, mean run.
Thank you. All right. That's really. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi, I just wanted to ask a question. When you say permanent wing, you're referring to the 3 classroom wings, and in watching the video, and I've researched it and spoken to several people about it also, I find it really fascinating that if you look at it, it almost looks like a modern version of Miners Oaks. And those 3 permanent buildings that we currently have are built, they were designed, like you said, very unique, very historic, almost the first solar, to utilize the entire wall of windows facing north is something that you just don't see everywhere. And I just want to put a little emphasis on that. If you're only going to replace 1 wing, if that's the amount of funding that we would have, that almost seems like it might take away from that value of those 3 wings. And maybe if we're looking at new construction from that, maybe where the library is and where those temporaries are, that footprint of the campus might be a location to consider, and then maybe using those permanent wings that are historically and of value for things that, kind of flip-flopping. Right now, the classrooms in those first 3 permanent wings are being used, and the other ones are outsourced for the computer lab and for cafeteria, library, and maybe some of the older classrooms they could kind of flip-flop. It seems that it would kind of maintain the historic value of the area. I'm not sure how aesthetically it would look to have a new container in row 1 and then 2 older buildings right next to it. I don't know, it's just something to consider. And I think, I know we want to spend our money wisely, but getting an architect's viewpoint would be beneficial. I think it's a great idea. I just don't know that I would agree with the placement of replacing one of those valued historic wings. I think they could be repurposed.
See what a good transition that was from, okay, the school's not going to get closed, now let's put in more buildings. I'm kidding.
So I would like to clarify, just my intent of bringing this forward tonight is for us to begin what will be a series of conversations on making an ultimate decision as whether or not we do want to pursue this. I feel right now what's most important is that we begin to understand what the full cost of a demolition and installation would be relative to the best estimate we can develop on fully rehabilitating the existing structures. I absolutely agree that there are going to be factors other than financial that will go into the ultimate decision, but certainly as we are looking to be creative, thinking outside the box with the utilization of Measure J dollars, this is an opportunity, and once we get more robust and accurate projections on numbers, we'll be able to make a full educated decision. I don't know.
All right, thank you, Andy. That was fascinating. Superintendent's report.
Are you, before I go, are you done with your outline? You want a little more on it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. He was done with the containers. That's okay.
Just I'll point out a few highlights of projects that I've identified here, and again, just to make sure we understand what my intention is with this list. This is a list of projects that we know with certainty would be needed and significant improvements from what we have. They've been identified in multiple measures or assessments of our facility needs. I know with certainty we will not accomplish each project or each task listed on this list in the next 11 months. I believe if we were going to, that just to give a ballpark or a frame of reference, I think this might total about $10 million in projects. So even if we were to accomplish this, we still would have a significant amount of Measure J money remaining to do other projects, like we know the significant roof work that needs to get done. What I like about pursuing these and walking further down the path toward being able to move toward presenting something for action is that we actually have the ability to this year do a few kind of sample projects to explore further rollout to the other campuses. So if we do pursue the cargo container classrooms and they are as successful as they've been at Oak Park, I would absolutely recommend and believe that there would be other locations across the district where, or including the sites that already received them, that could have other locations that make sense for installation as well. But at this time, what I really want to do is be able to move forward with these projects. There may be some additional ones added over the coming months, but with a goal of by December, being able, if not sooner, being able to bring a full bond plan on what we're calling our next phase of implementation and of projects, while we're working on the broader scope of the next 3 to 5 year plan.
How much have we, I don't know what the best word is, pulled down of the bond so far? Is it 10 million?
We've sold 10 million in the first round of bond sales.
Great interest environment, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Good call.
So I won't go, unless there's questions, I won't go into too much detail on the other items listed under the first section, the 1 through 10. You will see a couple of them are items that contained from this past summer, specifically items number 6, Topa, utility infrastructure improvements, both the electrical panel as well as domestic water, campus painting, and then number 8, and then number 10, also the San Antonio Fire water line hydrant was one we began work on this summer, and we'll continue to work on over the next couple months. I do want to highlight just a few other projects that I've listed in that second section of projects, the projects requiring additional funding. Nordhoff Stage, as I know each of you know, we've received about $50,000 in donations, primarily from OEF and then also from a number of projects that Kim Hoy has helped organize. So $50,000 in donate funds. We've actually received $60,000 in CTE funding for facility improvements that we're going to direct to this project. And then my recommendation is going to be to ultimately build a scope of about $125,000 in Measure J dollars for this to be overall a $250,000 project using multiple funding sources, leveraging each of those funding sources. The Building H is our welding and auto shop. That's Fender Carnine's classroom or buildings. We know that there's an absolute need for ventilation installation. It's been something that's been stalled in the past, in part due to the known hazardous material asbestos remediation required to put in those vents. We have $60,000 additional from CTE to go toward this, so I actually don't project we'll use Measure J money for this project. We'll be able to fully utilize the CTE funding. And for those in the audience or otherwise, CTE is Career Technical Education. And we've received 2 separate grants from the state that are funded through the county. Paving is a very clear need that we have at each one of our sites, both the walkways or sidewalks from both cracks and safety standpoint, as well as ADA accessibility improvements, as well as the parking lots and then the blacktop playground area. We have submitted as we've talked about in the past, the $2.2 million ask that was part of the Prop 2 funding. That was the grant that David White mentioned during 7-Eleven committee proceedings. If we receive funding, which we'll find out in October, that can go toward some significant improvements to paving across the 4 sites that we were able to submit on.
Is there some limitation on Measure J that you can't use it for paving, or are you just...
No, we're just trying to leverage every funding source we can. So we're hoping that if we can receive a partial or full funding on this ask for this grant, that can supplement Measure J dollars to be used at all campuses.
Okay, I was wondering, because you used the term requiring additional funds. We wouldn't necessarily require additional funds, but we're hoping to get additional funds, different source.
Correct.
Got it.
And then I have number 4, the community pool. I don't want anyone thinking that we've forgotten about that project, but it does, at least my impression is at this point, it really does feel like it's one that we are going to continue to explore, trying to find a city-district partnership or other sorts of partnerships that we can find ways, again, to leverage other funding sources beyond Measure J dollars in order to bring what would be a $3 to $5 million pool concept.
Why don't you just clarify that a bit? We didn't have really hard dollars back a number of years, and I'm assuming a number of months ago, when the issue came forth at the board table. So talk a little bit about what happened between those more general conversations about the pool, analysis that was done, brought in some experts, they came forth with some estimates, to do what? So 3 to 5 is a bit of a range, right? So, and it's accurate based on the material I saw. So just talk a little bit more about if it were to happen, leveraging all kinds of money, including, as Kevin pointed out, I think assertively, when this issue came up before, hopefully city, it's a small part of our district, but the pool would be in the city, okay? So city, school district, and private, right? People would step forward, not unlike Libby Bowl. Okay, so, but talk about how that $3 to $5 million concept emerged.
So we did retain PMSM, which again is Martin Hartman's firm, and requested that they actually work with the high school, work with Renee Nakao to work on making sure that the concept would be CIF compliant for both swim and water polo, working with our maintenance team to make sure, again, that the understanding of current state of our infrastructure with the pool, and then working with, again, the various stakeholders at the high school, understanding what the needs potentially are. What he came forward with was 2 separate concepts. The first one just under $4 million, second one at $5 million. We know that we can trim off a few items from the $4 million, which would bring down the best case scenario would be a $3 million pool concept. The first concept would be to maintain the same footprint, deep in the shallow end, to have it level with the current deep end. So again, it's actually compliant for both swim and water polo, and then add an additional section, so make it into kind of an L shape where we extend out for a shallow end. So the current footprint would become a deep end with swim lanes, and then there'd be a shallow end that could potentially be used for PE or for a community pool concept. Second concept that was going to come close to a $5 million total cost would have something that looks very similar to Villanova's pool. So it would be a square shape with a deep end with 7 to 8 swim lanes, again, compliant for water polo, and then the shallow end would be a broader section of the pool, similar to Villanova with theirs.
Okay.
Would that involve demolishing the entire swimming pool and building a completely new one, or could it be modified, the current one, if you were going to do something like Villanova's pool?
It would require that we fully remove what we currently have in order to be able to get underneath to build out the current shallow end. Each of the concepts and everything that Martin and their pool specialist brought forward was that we do not have the ability to expand a different direction and maintain the current shallow end. It really would be most cost effective to have the current shallow end leveled to the current deep end, and then add a shallow end to most likely the direction of the gymnasium.
I'm not an expert on these things, but I've been around swimming enough. It seems to me that an L shape might impact swim times in the lanes close to the L, the inside corner there. So it'd be good to have a swimmer look at it, to look at how that would impact times for competitive swimming.
I think that all the lanes are this way, and you have the shallow one over here.
Right, but the water would come in and then bounce back. Yeah.
Okay, how about our superintendent's report?
Well, if it's possible for me, actually, I'm going to throw one more thing in there, and that is to move off of page 2 and move to page 5, which we've already brought up. I do want to discuss a little bit more or a little further. I think that Balfour Beatty actually did do a really good job this summer. I think that we could not have accomplished the work that we did this summer without them. However, I think that we did also learn that there are plenty of opportunities for us to reduce their role, and if we had the current staffing, to be able to have someone in-house focused exclusively on the bond, that we could actually have a site superintendent for a number of the projects throughout the school year in the summer, as well as work on the front end with some of the help I mentioned they provide earlier with CUPCA requirements or going out for the bid packets, that we could do it in a more cost-effective manner than having it outsourced. So I've given you a sample job description that I'm working off of. It's Saugus's. I've also been working with Carpinteria, who's currently modifying theirs, but pulling together a few other nearby districts who are either currently or in the recent past went out to recruitment for this type of a job, and really try and tailor it to our needs here. But our intention is certainly to have, again, as minimal portion of our funding going toward Balfour Beatty or any soft cost or consultants, that are unnecessary. We'd rather have that go toward the hard cost of a project. If we can save money by bringing some of that project management scope in-house, then that's what I recommend we pursue.
Especially if you talk about the containers, right? I mean, does Balfour Beatty get a percentage of the container cost? Then that really is going to shoot up.
So just a reminder that Balfour Beatty never charges a percentage. They're charging for time and materials. So they're charging us a flat hourly rate based on their time, which is one of the reasons why we do see on some of these projects a high cost for construction management relative to the actual cost of the project. Because, for instance, San Antonio, the work that was done to identify, what was required of the tenting and the termite work was, only actually about 8 hours of their time, 9 hours of their time, but them going out to the site once to walk the site to make sure that we didn't have a greater scope that we were unaware of, or that there were structural concerns due to the termite damage, and then them helping us with putting together those CUPCA packets, that by itself ended up being, again, just a few hours of their time. So certainly, we don't have to worry about them collecting a flat 8% or 10%, as they originally were had in their proposal. We did work with them on making sure that they would never charge us a percent, but rather just a time and material cost.
That said, it's ended up on the bigger projects, it looks like it's about 8 or more %. I mean, I certainly doesn't appear to me we're saving any money by them committing to that. If anything, it's cost us more. And if someone tells me that's because of the way we chose to do it, I'd beg to say, all the more reason why we should get our own manager. I mean, I have to say, when you talk about tenting for termites, it's, my cynical meter starts going off.
Quick question. I know this is just your template, but would you be having this because it says under the direction of the director of facilities, and we no longer have a director of facilities, so it would be
under my direction. Right. So again, this is the primary job description that we're working off of, using Carpinteria, and then again making it our own. We're going to be bringing this to the Personnel Commission next month. I'll be bringing it to you as well, just so you're aware of it. We do not have any viewpoint at this time that this position must be full-time, nor do we feel that it couldn't be potentially phased in with having full-time work during the summer but having something reduced during the school year. It absolutely would be a temporary position contingent upon the bond. This would not become, this would not morph into a future director of MOT or other general fund funded position.
Okay, so I'm going to start out with my normal introduction, that the length of my superintendent's report is directly related to how late it is, since I'm sure very few people are still watching, but if you are, it's 9:15, which means we've been at this almost 4 hours. But to be very serious and on point, what I'd like to do in less than 5 minutes is to affirm that on September 20th, we are almost exactly where I told the board I thought we would be several weeks ago, and that was that I trusted them to get to the right point and use the right criteria to get to that point. And I think that's precisely what's happened over the last several weeks, several meetings, the decision tonight, and I called it sort of the struggle that the community needed to see to get to the point they reached. So it's not just, well, we're not closing any schools. I mean, if anybody asked me about that, I heard Kevin talk earlier, so just go watch the videos. You know, spend 12, 15 hours watching what happened over the last months, including 7-Eleven committee. So that's sort of point number one. I'm really proud of where we are, and I'm sure I'll go out on the limb and say that the vote will be confirmed in 8 days. Number one. Number two, I want to just pick up a little bit on all the work that Andy's done thus far, with a lot more to come. Kevin and Mike know specifically how, sort of focused, I'll understate, how focused I was on wanting to get significant work done this summer, particularly in those roofing projects. And, I backed off because it was clear that the right decision was to not move forward this summer, because we still have a lot of unanswered questions. But I'm really excited that between today and the first day of school next year, that you're going to see a lot of movement on this list, okay? And it's the first real significant implementation of the bond issue, and I'm going to be happy to see that as my last days here unfold. Next, I want to talk just a little bit about the next two board meetings. We've had a lot of conversation coming out of 7-Eleven. It came up tonight again about moving, what does it mean to move district office, chaparral, et cetera, services off of Ojai Avenue and to other places. We have a little bit of an insight into that, what that might mean in the May 3rd meeting, where Andy brought reports from the directors. There's so much more, one piece of which is all of the legal components, right? And so we will be having a significant agenda item on October 17th with Andreas Schaltis, who's our first-rate real estate attorney, to speak and then interact with you. And the community will get a sense of how you potentially get to Z from A if you want to lease all or part of the property. I will also be bringing forth that night, with the permission, we know of one potential developer, a person who's been with us now for 8+ years, because he started before I did, in terms of being involved when Linda, when he was the only respondent to the RFQ back in 2008, Ted Moore. Andy and I met with him. Andy, good meeting, right? Learned a lot, great guy, very successful, and most importantly, loves Ojai. And so he has a concept that we'll be able to talk about. Whether he comes or not, we can talk about the concept. And I've shared with you there is one other concept, people with whom I've met who have a different view of what the property might look like if developed. So I think we can talk a little bit about that. It won't be portending anything, but we'll talk about that. And the last piece in my 4 minutes or so is to remind everybody that we do academic things here too, and that always means, at least now it means again, that there are things called standardized tests, which did occur last spring, implemented beautifully again by our teachers, principals, technology people. We've had so few blips compared to what I've heard in some other districts. But most important, we want to know how the kids did. Okay, and we're identifying to the November meeting to make a report on the test scores, which I have shared with you are better in 2016 than they were in 2015. In general, that's the case across the county, but we have widened the gap a little bit between our performance and county performance in this past year. So that's what's coming up. And by the way, we also have an election, right? So we will have the results of the election by the time we meet in November, and then this board continues then, and then the transition from present board to new board occurs at the beginning of the December meeting. Okay, that's it.
There is the Ojai Women's League of Voters is holding.
Yeah, they are. Right, thanks. Kathy, that date again, it was mid-October? 10th, okay. No, it can't be, no, it's not October 10th.
I put it in my
Yeah, it's, yes.
Kelly, do you know?
Okay. You will be. You will be. William, you'll be invited, promise. All four of you. Now, the one thing they're doing which is different is apparently they will have the candidates for, is mid-October, October 13th. So our 4 candidates, 2 mayoral candidates, 4, right? Do I have that right? 3 mayor, I'm sorry, 3, that didn't sound right. 3 mayor candidates, right? Savaro, Johnny, and Paul. And then the 4, I think, there are 4 council candidates, I think?
Paul again.
some others, whoever there. Anyway, all of the candidates for all three of those roles will be on the same night. So that's going to be an interesting evening. All right, so thanks for reminding. I just didn't have all the details. October 13th, 7 to 9 at the Rec Center. Oh, yeah, Wood Center. Okay, I'm done.
So we have a consent calendar. Any questions for us on the consent calendar? Do we have a motion to approve? And all in favor of the consent calendar? Aye. And none opposed?
I'm going to abstain. I didn't get a chance to read through it.
Okay.
So I'm abstaining.